this weekend. He will give us some more details how the Horn is covering that. But we have sound from the head coach, Steve Sarkisian, from his spring football media availability. We'll get to that coming up in the 5 o'clock. The play-in games begin tonight. So we'll start previewing the NBA postseason. Lakers in action tonight versus the T-Wolves. The Hawks versus the Heat. We'll get into that and break that down. Texas baseball, they get another dub. That's all that matters. We'll get into that. Also preview and review Texas baseball's win over Texas State. We got Hardball to help us do that and break it down. And NFL news, notes, and nuggets in the top of the 4 o'clock. Before we do, let's introduce you to the rest of the crew. He was a second-round pick for the Montreal Expos, but a first-round pick for the Austin Radio Network. He originally committed to the University of Texas, but decided to forego the 40 acres and chase his dream in the cheese. Pimping ain't easy, but for him, it's a breeze. He is Mike Hardball Harge. Ladies and gentlemen, what's going on, brother?
Man, I'm ready. I can't wait. We got play-in games. We got Texas baseball. Went to the Round Rock Express game. I'll get into that a little bit, and we'll also talk to my man Kyle Yeomans. That's right, folks. He will be on the show today and break down what he believes the Cowboys will do during the draft. I don't know if it's true, but he is going to be with us. But let me talk about my man that sits across from me every single day. He hails from H-Town with the Get Down. He's a lifetime Longhorn and a proud card-carrying member of DBU. Legendary lifetime and now College Football Hall of Fame Longhorn Derek Johnson said he was the best cover corner he had ever seen. He's a former NFL DB that still has that passion for film study, but he's not a fan of white condiments. But, of course, he is a fan of you, the listeners. He is my man and yours, Rod Babers.
Thanks for the intro, brother. Let's not waste any time introducing our other brother. He is one of the hardest working members of the Aaron family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. We don't know what he's paid. We are damn sure that he's underpaid, though. That's for sure. My man, Patrick Davis. What's going on, Patrick? How are you?
I'm doing good, doing good.
All right, we got a shortened show, abbreviated, truncated edition of Ball Don't Lie. We're going to be off a little bit early at 6:15 for Texas baseball. Speaking of Texas baseball, we're going to talk Texas baseball. So if you want to stick around for that, that'll be coming up next segment. We'll talk about their win over Texas State, but also their game coming up tonight versus Texas State. Also, we're going to preview the play-in games, talk some NBA. Top of the 3, and also top of the 6 o'clock right before we're out of here. NFL news, notes, and nuggets that will be coming in the top of the 4 o'clock. We'll talk Cowboys there. Lamar Jackson, Albert Breer's latest report as a Texans fan. Man, it caused me some anxiety reading it. So if you're a Texans fan out there, just brace yourself for it. Yeah, brace yourself for it. We'll get into that. Also, the Cowboys really like Rojo. Multiple reports out there that the Cowboys like Rojo. I mean, who doesn't like Rojo?
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Must not be alive if you don't like Rojo.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Everybody likes, just like said, like, oh, you thought Beyonce was fine. I mean, everybody think.
Come on.
Everybody think Beyonce is fine.
Exactly.
So we'll get into that. And Carson Palmer, how about this? He's starting up a really heated national debate about who's the best quarterback in the NFL. I think we all know. He says it's Joe Burrow. He said he would take Joe Burrow over Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that a little bit, too. I think it's an interesting conversation. So we'll do all of that top of the 4 o'clock. Harsh Knock Life. You just talked about it. Got special guests coming on to talk Cowboys. So we'll keep the NFL conversation going with Kyle Yeomans coming on at 4:30. Harsh Knock Life to talk Cowboys. So NFL hour is basically going to be your 4 o'clock hour. You can be a part of the show. You're the most important part of the show. Specs text line's the best way to do it for 512-337-3776. Also, you can do it via Twitter. My man Harge is at Hardball Harge. Patrick Davis, the real MVP at It's Patrick Davis. And I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. Speaking of Patrick Davis, glad he's here because he's kind of our NBA aficionado. I don't know anybody who watches more NBA. Well, I know a couple of guys that watch as much NBA, but I don't know if anybody watches more NBA than my man Patrick Davis. My man Matt Butler watches a lot of NBA because he's one of those fantasy nerds. So he's pacing to the spring league. He's in that kind of stuff, and I know my man Patrick does as well. So we'll talk a ton of NBA on the show, of course, because the play-in games are starting tonight. So the postseason officially begins. So we're going to try to preview them and basically dive as deep as we can into these two matchups that are happening tonight. All right, so let's start, gentlemen, with, you want to start with the Lakers versus the T-Wolves, or would you like to start with the Atlanta Hawks versus the Miami Heat?
Well, let's go in order. because they start tonight. Let's go ahead and go.
I think the late game is
first.
All right, so let's go into the Atlanta.
Yep.
Atlanta is right now, of course, we know the winner advances to face Boston, who in the first round as the 7th seed, if they win that 7th seed, because the play-in is all about. The loser will play the winner of Wednesday night's Bulls-Raptors game to determine the 8th seed. And remember, the Heat have the regular season advantage in this series, 3-1. And this is why I think you can kind of start with this storyline. This matchup, or at least the problems it presents to the Atlanta Hawks, this is why they acquired DeJounte Murray.
Yep.
Right? Because it was too easy to just cut the head off the snake defending the Atlanta Hawks with Trae Young. Right. And by the way, you can argue nobody in the NBA has defended Trae Young better than the Miami Heat when they've played them versus Miami when Trae Young's played them in the last 2 years versus the Heat. They're 3-10. That's the record. Less than 20 points per game, right at 19.8 points per game. 3-point percentage, 23.7%. The assist numbers stay relatively normal, around 7.5 assists per game, but averaging almost 6 turnovers per game. They were able to, and Miami's defense is one of the better defenses in the NBA. They were able to effectively cut the head off the snake, if you will, with Trae Young when they did not have another weapon. Now they do. They got DeJounte Murray. So if they're going to focus all their attention on trying to neutralize Trae Young, which maybe they will be able to do based on the numbers you have here, they still got to worry about DeJounte Murray on the weak side. You get some 3-on-2s or some 2-on-1s. DeJounte Murray, and you know this, Patrick, because you're a Spurs fan, he can make you pay.
Yeah.
He can get to the rim. And Miami's got, they got some deep. They don't have a rim protector. They don't have
Bam Adebayo can be a rim protector.
Bam Adebayo is one of the dudes that everybody keeps sleeping on. And you sit back and you watch a game, you know that Bam Adebayo not only can protect the rim, he can also score. And that's going to be the difference for me. And, of course, Jimmy Butler at this time of year. This is where Jimmy becomes that dude. That's where Jimmy lets everybody know that he's going to go hard, and he's going to go hard in the paint a lot. So, and Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is somebody, we're talking about DeJounte Murray and trying to offset what Trae Young does. They better be careful with what they do with Tyler Hero, because if Tyler Hero can get going, that just opens so much more, and nobody ever talks about Oladipo. Everybody stopped talking about Oladipo, and don't forget he can score too. So this is a time where I think, because of the experience, number one, I think Spoelstra is a better head coach. Didn't they just get Quinn Snyder?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So the adjustment period for what they're trying to do, and the fact that Spoelstra has been around for a long time, and let's not forget about the front office, Pat Riley. Mm-hmm. Pat Riley's been built for this. So he's going to make sure that these guys are well prepared.
Both of these teams have been in the Eastern Conference Finals in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
It's crazy how it worked out that way.
It has, yeah. And I'll give more credit to Miami on that, because I think Miami has had a more built team. That Atlanta team that went kind of got, like, Trae Young was good. That team was good. I don't want to disparage them too much, but they got really lucky to get there. There was injuries and other things that kind of led a path to there. All of today's games, it's fun to look at and go, the trades beginning of the season for the Timberwolves and for the Atlanta Hawks seem to have been bad trades. Like, neither one of them did what they expected them to do. If you're in the play-in, that meant that trade to add DeJounte Murray, to add Rudy Gobert, neither of those worked, because you're not supposed to be in the play-in if you add another player to a playoff team, right?
That's fair.
So both those trades did not seem to work out the way they wanted them to. And then you look at the Lakers, who made a trade at the trade deadline, and it was a huge success, and Miami, who didn't do anything but didn't mess up their team chemistry. So where Miami probably should have gotten somebody else, wasn't able to do it at the trade deadline. And that's kind of setting the scene for these play-ins is, can these teams recover, and the Timberwolves and the Heat, or and the Hawks, can they recover from the fact that they just have really underperformed this year after putting together these teams? And the Hawks had to fire Nate McMillan because he basically died on his sword and said, look, if Trae Young doesn't want to play basketball that's going to win us games, then I'm just going to keep coaching him until he does, and I'll pull him out of games when he doesn't care about winning. If he just cares about his stats, I'm going to pull him out. And that ended up getting him fired eventually, and Quinn Snyder's coming in. He's trying to lean on him a little bit more in a different way. But right now, Miami's a much better team than Atlanta is. Atlanta has bigger superstars in Trae Young that Trae Young can take over a game like very few can. Like he's got that Luka Doncic thing and the LeBron thing and what all those guys in the past used to have where it's like, oh, no, he could put up 70 in this game if he really wanted to, and he gets hot. He can hit 8-9 threes in a game. He can go off. And Miami defends him well. I don't think that happens. And if that doesn't happen, he's also a guy that can shoot you out of a game.
Yeah.
And I could see them shooting themselves out of this game tonight against Miami where they get the pressure, it gets put on them, they start to worry about what they're doing, and Miami just plays good, smart, fundamental basketball for 4 quarters, and Atlanta gets a little bit behind and just tries to shoot threes to get their way back into it.
Yeah, and to add to that point, Patrick, because I totally agree with everything you said. The playoffs, and I've talked about how this era of the NBA is so different when we all kind of grew up watching the NBA where everybody played hard-nosed defense and everybody could play really good defense, and the elite teams could also play elite offense, and they had elite scorers at the time. And now it's flipped. Everybody can play offense. Everybody can score. The elite teams that separate, they also can play defense on top of that.
Exactly.
Atlanta doesn't play defense at all. Now, this is a weird matchup because Miami technically is the worst offense in the league.
Yes.
Miami.
Efficiency for sure.
Yeah, Miami was the lowest scoring team in the NBA. They're the only team to fail to score 110 points per game, getting back to how high scoring the NBA is, with 3 players who average over 20 points per game.
Right.
I mean, Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, and Tyler Hero. It's weird. The individual pieces don't add up to the total sum of its parts. It's strange.
Never
I don't know
lost.
offensively. But get your point, though. Experience, the playoffs.
Exactly.
They got guys that will know how to score in crucial situations, right? Clutch time.
They know what it's about.
Yeah, but it's weird because Atlanta, they are just as bad defensively. They are one of the worst in the NBA.
Because they got Trae Young. Trae Young doesn't play defense, which to Patrick's point
and
is like,
they got rid of Herter, who wasn't a great defender, but he put a lot of effort into it. And John Collins hasn't been the same since the injury, so he doesn't have the jump anymore to be a rim protector. And Clint Capella is just getting older.
Guys, their defense, I mean, they're basically kind of what the Mavs would have been in the playoffs.
Right.
They kind of represent that.
Yeah.
Which is why he was like, nah, we ain't playing. We're not going to let y'all play because we're just out there to be out there.
Yeah, their defensive rating, 22nd, 115.4. Points in the paint allowed, 54.7. That's 29th. Fast break points allowed, 15.4. That's 26th. Fourth quarter points allowed, 28.3. That's 27th in the NBA. I mean, they're kind of lucky to be here considering how bad that defense is. But to Patrick's point, they got a guy that can light it up. And now with DeJounte Murray, at least they got a on-ball defender who can. Now, they as a team defensively, they're bad. But they do have one guy that they can schematically, tactically try to put on your best guy, and maybe he can frustrate him because DeJounte Murray is the real deal.
And we know DeJounte Murray this season hasn't been 100% the same defender. Because that's the reason he wanted out of San Antonio.
He won't score.
Well, he was like, man, I want to go play street ball. Man, it's fun. I love playing basketball when I'm playing with my friends. And when Pop gets in there, he yells at me because he wants me to play defense and pass the ball. And he goes, yeah, because they want to win. And they went over there, and Nate McMillan yelled at him too, and he went, nah, Trae went, don't listen to him. Don't listen to him. We're going to go out there. Look, hey, man, just lob it up for Clint Capella. Hey, man, wasn't he a really good defender and rebounder? Nah, but he catches lobs now. He's good. And that's just – I think Quentin Snyder's a great coach, and hopefully he turns it around.
He just got there,
Yeah, but I don't know if they have enough right now to convince DeJounte Murray and John Collins and Clint Capella that they're really going to have to step up their game defensively in this matchup. And not only for this matchup, but for the next month and a half. I don't know if he can get that out of all those guys to go, look, I get it. We are now in the Trae Young show offensively. DeJounte Murray needs to get 20-25 for us, and we need to get Trae Young and try and get him open and screen for him and run for him and get him going because he's not going to help us defensively just at all. No matter how much we try, he will not care because he's not a complete basketball player. But the rest of you guys can because you've done it in the past. We know you can defend. You just have to want to. It sucks to do it. It sucks when, during the regular season when they call fouls on you all the time because today's NBA, they call a ton of fouls. And we'll see if playing basketball is more playoff basketball refs are regular season refs.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know.
Because Miami will very much thrive in in playoff refs.
Yep.
Because if they can play a little bit more intense and they can play more playoff basketball, that's what they're built to do. And if the Hawks can play, Trae Young gets to pump fake and then fly horizontally into a foul and throw it into the fourth row, and they give him 3 free throws, then it's going to help them out.
That's a good point. No, I think that my 2 big factors in the matchup will be DeJounte Murray offsetting whatever production is lost when they try to cut the head off the snake, which is Trae Young, which Miami, which I gave the numbers, has done really, really well over the last 2 years. The whole point of that is getting DeJounte Murray. So if they're extending the defense on the strong side, then on the weak side, you should have DeJounte Murray with some advantageous matchups. And if he can take advantage of that, like Patrick said, give you 20-something night in and night out.
Yep.
I think that's their formula. Defensively, though, the Hawks are just going to struggle. But for Miami, like I said, they don't score a lot as a team. But to Harge's point, they have clutch scorers. And Jimmy Butler, he's 3rd in the NBA in clutch time scoring. Clutch time points scored, I should say.
Yeah.
Clutch time points scored with a 151, I believe it is. And he's shooting over 50% field goal percentage in clutch time.
When it's time, it's time.
Yeah, clutch.
You know what I'm saying?
So, and that's what this is going to come down to. We all know it. That's what the play-in or the playoffs are all about. How about this little stat, guys, before we move on to the Lakers matchup here? DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, first teammates since Jordan and Pippen to average 20-plus points and 6-plus assists.
Yeah. I wish they would add in there how many turnovers they get, too.
No, that probably
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Because Trae Young will turn that thing over a lot more than his assists. But to your point.
Four a game.
Yeah.
Over 4 a game.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Okay.
and then, versus Miami, that number goes up almost 2 more. Add 2 more on that versus.
Exactly.
Over the last 2 years, anyway. So, it's that's going to be – I'll pick Miami in the matchup, by the way. So
I think 17 other people on a panel did so as well.
Oh, did they?
But I do want to say this. Eric Spoelstra became the only coach in franchise history with at least 700 career wins, according to ESPN Sports and Data.
That's a good point. How underrated is Eric Spoelstra? Patrick, you're an NBA
I think
guy.
in NBA circles, he's not. In the grand scheme of things, extremely.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's what I think.
In the big picture, he is one of the most underrated coaches.
Yeah, he's a top 10
from
all-time
the
coach.
like he said, to the non-basketball people. If you look at him and you're like, it's Eric Spoelstra, the first thing that comes to your mind is not a bunch of wins.
Is it because LeBron almost devalues coaches when
him and Pat Riley?
It's
both. It's that it's people believe Pat Riley was more influential in all of this, so they didn't give him the credit. And then LeBron came in, and they don't give him the credit. They'll give Dwayne Wade credit. They'll give everyone else just seems nicer, and he's not an outspoken guy. So it just comes back that Greg Popovich will be very outspoken about things, so he's in kind of more in your face.
Yeah,
and not even that he's unplugging his own self, but he's in your face.
Yep.
And Spoelstra's so quiet, people don't believe that he is the guy in the timeouts yelling at players and getting things
Remember,
done.
because he got into a fight with Jimmy one time. He was about to fight Jimmy, and Udonis Haslem stepped in and was like, yo, man, talking to Jimmy. Like, I'm the godfather around this piece, and if anybody going to be hollering, it's going to be me.
Well, let's be honest. Jimmy Butler was also referring to himself as Jimmy.
Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true.
You going to yell at Jimmy? You talking to Jimmy like that? You know who Jimmy is?
Leon don't play no Dion. No defense.
Right? We all agree Jimmy Butler probably refers to himself as Jimmy in third person.
Very true.
And we love him for that, by the way.
Very true. And just to add to that, to Spoelstra, his playoff resume is just as good. He's got 96 playoff wins, 8th most in NBA history. And if he wins this series, he can move. If he wins a series coming up, he can move into 5th place all time.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a great point.
People underestimate him so much.
I mean, if you look at this roster right now, it's not a lot of coaches would not have put this in a lot of coaches would be tanking right now because they wouldn't be able to make it work with Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo and basically Tyler Hero, maybe your third best players. Kyle Lowry don't play the whole season.
Much, yeah.
And when he does play, he doesn't look even close.
About Kyle Lowry.
I mean, because he's doubtful again tonight, but he does not look like he is an NBA player anymore.
No.
No, that's a good point about Eric Spoelstra, though.
And they picked up Kevin Love. Don't forget, Kevin Love is on this team too.
That's right.
And he's been going back to the old Kevin Love of just worrying about playing defense and rebounding.
Oh, he's on like a journey, like a basketball journey. I read like a piece about him. Like he's deep. He's into like big on mental health and mental wellness.
Big time on that.
So he's on a different kind of journey. But you're right though. That may be one of the most, just considering Spoelstra, and now we just talked about all the guys on the roster that we forgot about.
Yeah.
The Heat are an underrated team.
Very much.
You got to remember, Kevin Love didn't see the sun for the entire first part of his career. He played in Minnesota and Cleveland. He went to Minnesota to Cleveland, and now he's in Miami. He's like, oh, the race. So I'm alive again.
He's probably talking about the God and everything else.
Exactly.
Like, found God out there. It's like, no, it's the sun. It's the sun.
It's the sun. Hallelujah.
Speaking of Minnesota, they are in action tonight as well. The late game, Minnesota at L.A., the Lakers. So it's an 8 basically versus 7. Remember, the winner advances to face Memphis in the first round as that number 7 seed. So it's the matchup to win the 7 seed. The loser will play the winner of that Wednesday night game with the Thunder and the Pelicans. Yes, as well. That's going to determine the 8th seed. So there you go. And by the way, the regular season series, I should say, Minnesota won that 2-1. Not that it matters that much because the Lakers are just a different team.
They're totally
since the All-Star break.
And by the way, they picked up Tristan Thompson too.
That went down.
You're right
about that.
He's part of that group of players that they picked up at the last second. And don't forget, Mo Bamba is on the Lakers as well.
Is he? Yeah, because
and he's been playing
injured
the last few games.
Okay. They got healthy at the perfect time.
Right.
They really did. I mean, that's the key right now to what's going on with the Lakers is they're finally healthy at the right time. LeBron's healthy. Hart just brought up Mo Bamba being healthy. And here's what they've done basically since they're too significant. Most people look at it since the All-Star break. They've been great. They basically got the second best record in the NBA behind Milwaukee since the All-Star break. They are 18-9, I believe. No, sorry about that. Since the February 9th trade deadline, they are 18-9. Yeah. So whether you look at the All-Star break or look at the trade deadline, they've been a different team. So pre-All-Star break, they were 20th in offensive rating, 18th in defensive rating. Post-All-Star break, 14th in offensive rating, 4th in defensive rating. And really the trades that they made kind of it solved a lot of the issues that they had, which were they didn't have enough quality shooting on the team, and they didn't have enough rebounding and defense on the team either, and they figure out a way to acquire pieces to really solve a lot of those issues.
And a couple of those guys they get from Utah that came over in that trade for Rudy Gobert. Malik Beasley and Vanderbilt were both on the Timberwolves earlier this season, traded for Rudy Gobert. And then Utah was like, oh, you gave us too many guys for that Rudy Gobert guy. We'll send some of those over to the Lakers. And now they're playing good pieces over there.
And Vanderbilt is one of the best defenders in the league. He's one of the best defenders in the league. So, and one of the most underrated players if you don't watch basketball. Everybody's looking for certain guys to come in. And to your point, Rod, of what you said about them getting healthy at the right time, but they're also getting the critical pieces to having success because – Anthony Davis, you don't know what you're going to get from him. He's been playing a lot better, but as far as defensive-wise, there's some games he plays more defense than offense. LeBron is coming back to that point of where he was getting hot at the right time. But those other pieces that you're picking up, you talked about Malik Beasley, even Austin Reeves. Yeah. Austin Reeves is the new Alex Caruso.
He's going, and he's in a contract year, so he wants it right now.
He wants it bad.
That's a great point, though. Yeah, I mean, they have so many guys for the Lakers that are just playing really, really well right now, and that's why a lot of people, they're picking the Lakers.
I mean, if you look, that is crazy though to pick the Lakers.
I wouldn't pick them to win the title, but I say in this game.
Yeah.
It is. It is a Lakers team.
Sure.
No, some people are picking them to win it all, though.
But in this game, it's them going forward, and the Timberwolves are suspended a guy, and a guy's out with a broken hand because of how mad they are at what they're playing right now.
Yeah. The Jaden McDaniels injured right hand. That's big because he's one of their best on-ball defenders.
Yep. And LeBron's had problems against him in particular.
Yeah, I heard, you're right about that. And then I heard Zay bring that up as well. And then you have Rudy Gobert, who's also a guy that can protect the rim, and he's going to be out. So, all things are – I mean, even before those guys are being out, I think people would have looked at the Lakers as right now arguably one of the hottest teams in the NBA. Oftentimes, who wins the NBA title, or at least who makes deep runs, they're not necessarily the best team, but the team that gets hot at the right time. Mm-hmm. The Lakers are primed to be that team that's hot at the right time. Here's some numbers since the trade and D'Angelo Russell and his really effect on the team. The Lakers were 3.7 points worse in net rating with Beverly on the court, 3.1 points worse in net rating with Westbrook on the court. But now with, if you go look at their net rating now, the Lakers are 15 and a half points better in net rating with D'Angelo Russell on the court this season. They are 0.7 points better in defensive rating with Vanderbilt on the court this season. So they're improved all around. Austin Reeves too. Some guys, they're just some players just benefiting from this kind of new culture and the new vibe really of this team as they are really finding their way and kind of finding their groove right now. Austin Reeves, since returning from that 16-game absence he had in February, over his last 27 games, he's shooting 44% from three while averaging 16 points per game.
Yeah.
Before that, he was at 36% from three and around 10 points per game. So they got a lot of guys playing at a high level. I'll take the Lakers right now.
Oh,
it's hard to bet against them.
They're definitely hot, and especially when you got to play in a series against them. That's the other part about it. Tonight is just a one-gamer, but when you get into a series, it's hard to go against them with all that depth. And, again, the experience. And, of course, they got LeBron on that team.
They got Bron.
So crazy.
At 20 years in the league, by the way.
It's so crazy to say the Lakers have depth.
Exactly.
Isn't it? Because we could have talked about this before the trade deadline. You're like, this may be the most shallow team. They don't have 5 starters before the trade deadline.
What would we call it? LeBron was the one that would suck all your players away.
Yeah.
Like the aftermath of LeBron. Yeah, you would win a championship, but for the next 5 years, your teams would suffer. You gave the stats earlier this year when we were talking about LeBron, and now we're still talking about, but now they've got depth.
Well, they got to make a run first. There's still the LeBron hangover is real. If they make a run to the NBA title or at least to the Western Conference Finals, then they would buck that trend indeed. They would buck that trend because, and this is why people are upset with the Mavs. Because they look like they were in worse shape than the Mavs were.
And then
they were in much
shape.
Yeah, exactly. And they found now, obviously LeBron is LeBron, as Hart said. So he is a freak that goes against, every kind of, basketball theory you could throw out there. But Luka is a great player, and everybody believes Luka, he's not going to be LeBron, I don't think, but he's still a great player, great young player to build around. And yet the Lakers and that front office, Rob Pelinka, they found a way to get it done.
Yep.
And resuscitate the season, and the Mavs regressed and got worse. Also made a big move, but they got worse.
They did.
Yeah. No, you figure if they could have.
Well, because this move was built, to Patrick's point, built around the strengths, looking at the team aspect of the Lakers and trying to make them a better team. The Mavs they had a different motive in acquiring Kyrie Irving.
Basically, if you were able to say, if the Mavs were able to pull off the exact same trade for D'Angelo Russell and Vanderbilt and Beasley, they would be in the playoffs right now.
I agree.
Wow.
Because they
would have kept Dorian Finney-Smith.
And they would have got defense.
Yeah, they would have kept Dorian Finney-Smith, added another point guard, but those were all guys that nobody wanted. Utah was going to get rid of him anyway.
Yep.
So if they could have pulled off that trade, then you go, all right, now you get another point guard. He's not as good as Kyrie is, but he's shown that he is not as bad as everybody was making him out to be.
That's a great point. That's one man's trash, another man's treasure.
You could have brought all
sometimes you got to
in.
clean it off a little bit, right?
That's a great point, man. I didn't think about that, Patrick, but you're right. That makes it hurt even more. Sorry, Mavs fans. We want to bring that up, but I think he's
facts is facts.
Also,
if
you could have gotten a Mo Bamba trade too. Like if you could have just gunned all the Lakers trades, you'd be doing pretty good right now.
But those, and like you said, those were pieces you could have acquired because nobody really wanted them.
Yeah,
they were just they were savvy moves.
You went after the guy that no one also really wanted, but he is a superstar player.
Splash move.
Yeah, you went for the big move, and you gave up players to do it. They basically gave up picks and guys that they didn't want, like Patrick Beverly.
But they were trying to solve problems.
Yes.
Yep.
They were trying to solve the problems.
And I'll tell you this,
Mavs
had plenty of guys that they could have ditched salaries. Like, they have those guys on that roster, too. You could have ditched a JaVale McGee in salary, or you could have ditched a Davis Bertans, or you could have ditched – I mean, you could even ditch Dinwiddie or Tim Hardaway Jr., one of those guys, if you go, hey, give up one of those guys because we have the other one. You could do all of those things, but Dorian Finney-Smith was a big problem.
Yep.
No doubt. Well, you know what? And pretty much I think that Mark Cuban admitted, he said, I messed it up. So I'm not trying to pile on to the Mavs. All right, we come back. We'll talk Texas baseball on the other side, keep their winning ways going with a win over Texas State. So we'll review that match, but also preview the matchup coming up tonight between Texas and Texas State. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie. Okay. All right. I don't think I've ever heard the beginning of that song.
You didn't hear the very beginning of the song
I don't think
before.
I've ever heard the beginning of this song, actually. That's surprising. I don't think I've ever heard the actual beginning of it. I think I hear it, like, obviously, once the song is started, once the beat drops. I don't think I've ever heard the actual beginning of the song. There you go. Top of the charts Tuesday. That's why I love it. One of my favorite musically themed days of the week because it always broadens my horizons a little bit. Thanks to my man, Patrick. You can always hit us up. Specs Text Line is the best way to do it. 512-337-3776 on the Top of the Charts Tuesday. That's when my man Patrick plays jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. All right, let's talk some Texas baseball while we got a chance. Texas baseball with a win yesterday, another one.
Another one.
Yeah, they stacking them up now.
Right.
I mean, considering how they started the season, I mean, can you believe we were having even a conversation about a panic button at the beginning of the season?
Yes, rightfully
ridiculous.
so.
Come
We
on.
needed to. We didn't know. We didn't know about some of the transfers.
The conversation itself was absurd. It's absurd conversation. It's like that conversation, that debate we'd have in the sports world back in the day. Who are we debating? Was it Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf?
Oh, yeah.
Absurd.
That is utterly ridiculous.
Absurd. And some of y'all out there, y'all know y'all pick Ryan Leaf.
Exactly.
Absurd.
Exactly.
But Texas wins. They beat Texas State 5-2. Talk about, I mean, this team right now, they're finding their stride. They seem to be finding their identity. What do you like about this one?
Well, a little bit of everything. I mean, you got some unexpected heroes that came a part of this game. When you start looking at what Kobe Minchie was able to do, nobody knew he only pitched one inning so far this season. Then he went out there with 3 innings, gave up 3 hits. But he was pitching well, had 4 strikeouts, very consistent. His changeup was outstanding yesterday. He was keeping people off balance. Fastball had a lot of life to it. And then you look at what Heston told. He's been very consistent all year as well. I think the biggest story for Texas is not only the interchanging of all the pieces, because remember, at the very beginning of the year, the reason why people were talking about a panic button is because you lost so much. You lost a lot of productivity at this team and on the pitcher's mound. So you still didn't know. You didn't know who was going to take that next step on the pitching staff. And again, I was one of the guys, I didn't know what to expect from Woody Williams. I knew he was a great player. I knew he was a great coach down at San Jac, but this was going to be his first opportunity to coach at this level. But experience is experience, and you can go out there and teach people how to manipulate the baseball. And what I mean by that is being able to work in and out, up and down, change speeds, and be effective with your delivery. It seems like these guys have bought into whatever the teachings are.
So basically the batter can never figure out.
Exactly.
There's no pattern or trend to follow.
No, because
it's always changing up. Everything switches. Yeah.
What I learned a long time ago, and it was crazy to me when I was coming up through the minor leagues, people would pitch backwards. And at that time when I was coming out, I didn't know that. I didn't know anything. I learned how to hit later in my career.
Explain for people who don't know about pitching.
Well, when you're pitching backwards, that means in fastball counts, you would get an off-speed pitch. In off-speed counts, you would get a fastball. So you were
it's like throwing the ball on first down.
Exactly.
It's a tendency breaker.
That's what I was just about to say. You break tendency. So there was a bunch of teams that I would go against that I finally started realizing, all right, he's going to set me up with an off-speed pitch because of the fact that he knows I'm looking for this. So now I'm going to be looking for the pitch that I'm not supposed to be looking for. So then you start setting yourself up and you're looking in certain areas, and that's what Woody Williams has brought to this staff. Your pitchers are delivering tough, high-quality leverage pitches in difficult situations that you wouldn't expect them to be able to do. And that has been very impressive to me. I had a buddy of mine who played with Woody Williams. He was a catcher with Woody, and he kept telling me, he was on me bad about it. He was like, man, just let that man work. Just let that man work. You're going to see. You're going to see. He's going to do amazing things. And right now, Texas has the lowest ERA in the Big 12.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So when you start looking at certain things, and not only is it the starters, it's the middle relievers, it's the back end. You're starting to figure out roles on this team. And you and I have talked a lot about that off air, about how these guys are starting to settle in and know exactly what is expected of them. And you got your leaders at the top of the lineup that are starting to play like leaders. And then you got the guys that are coming in late in games, and they're getting clutch hits because they're understanding, too, all right, I need to be ready by the 5th, 6th, 7th inning because my number might be called. And I got to give David Pierce credit. It's one of those things where, you don't know until you see it, because I didn't know that Porter Brown's numbers weren't that great at TCU. I talked to a lot of scouts. He wasn't a guy that was on a lot of radars. This year, he's come in, shown a lot more power, hit the ball hard, been very consistent in the lineup. You got Garrett Gilmette.
That's development.
Yeah, and Garrett Gilmette coming in. I told you, I was like, I don't know about this kid. I don't like that rah. Well, after 3 games, I understood why he was. He was elevating his pitching staff because these guys were a lot of young, inexperienced pitchers. Well, now they're getting that opportunity, and they're starting to play at a very, very high level, and they're very consistent. And when you asked me, and you and Patrick were like, hey, man, should we get that button ready? I was like, hold up now. Mm-hmm. The reason why I said hold up is because I did an evaluation of the entire Big 12. And I was like, no, Texas is going to be right in the heart of this thing. I mean, they're going to be right in the middle of it, and the way that they have been playing are showing us that, hey, they're here for the long haul. Shout out to Dylan Campbell. He's been out there crushing the baseball situationally, stealing bases, just doing a little bit of it, playing a great outfield. There's been some things, and they rebounded yesterday without having Eric Kennedy there in the lineup because he got ejected for what happened on Sunday, but they didn't miss a beat out there. Ace Whitehead played a good outfield. Jared Thomas did a good job in the leadoff position. I mean, they were doing good situational stuff. Shout out to Jack O'Dowd, too. What have I been telling you? Hit the ball the other way, good things happen. They've been hitting the ball the other way, and good things have been happening.
Sounding like they're listening hard, man. It's a good point you brought about the situational baseball. That's been one of your key terms you've been talking about since the season started for this team. And even though, and I think the situational baseball, it really comes into play. And it's situational anything. Situational football, basketball comes into play when you have to find different ways to win because you're going up against, good teams, or it's a long season, your team has inconsistent play, whatever it is. You got to find different ways to win. This is a team now we're starting to see them find different ways to win. They didn't have a great offensive showing yesterday.
Right. Not at all.
You're right. They had 7 hits total, but they left 10 runners on base.
Yep, as we talk about.
Right. 2 of 13 with runners in scoring position, but they came up with some clutch ones. Mm-hmm. Those two were clutch, and that's what you're talking about. That's your situational baseball.
And they took walks. They took walks when they needed to. They did certain things. They tried to bunt a couple times, moving guys over.
Manufacturing offense.
That's right.
All right, we ain't got it. Our bats are not prolific. They're not hot today. We got to manufacture some runs.
That's right. Get the bunt down.
No, it's really fun to watch this team grow, and you can see them right now. They're becoming. Are they the best team in the Big 12?
They are. They're at the top. They're at the top of the league. No,
I'm asking you for your opinion. I know they're ranked the standings wise.
Oh, okay.
In your opinion, are they the best team in the Big 12?
Yep. I think so. They're not the most talented because there's a bunch of teams with a lot of talent on it, but they're not gelling. They're not getting to that point. Texas is doing everything that they need to do from top to bottom situationally. They're pushing the right buttons. Last night, you look at what Jack O'Dowd did. Jack O'Dowd was 2 for 2 with a walk, drove in 2 runs, and he gets pinch hit for in that time. And Coach Pierce came in and brought in the young freshman to come in and get a big base hit, and that's exactly what he did. I mean, it's just certain things. Jalen Flores came up and got a big knock in the right situation, double down the line, and things just happen to work out the right way.
Yeah. No, like I said, they're finding different ways to win. It's not all coming together for them to get ideal wins every time. They're not winning in the same way every time.
Right.
Which I actually kind of like. I think that just shows growth. And I even heard Coach Pierce talking about that too. That just shows maturity, a mature baseball team, or a team that is maturing. And as you pointed out, they lost a lot, so they were young to start the season.
Very much so.
Just a lot of unproven talent on this team, and now they're starting to prove themselves. So tonight, Texas versus Texas State. Tonight, we'll be off a little bit early at 6:15 for that matchup tonight. Do we know who's on the mound for
Ace Whitehead will be pitching for the Texas Longhorns. Ace got a chance to start in right field because of Eric Kennedy being out. Dylan Campbell went to center, so now Kennedy will be back in center field tonight. Dylan Campbell being right and Ace Whitehead being able to start on the mound tonight.
Yeah, all right, there you go. Great stuff there, Harge, as usual. All right, we come back. We'll get into the flex on the other side right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104 Now The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Top of the charts Tuesday. That's when my man Patrick takes jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history and plays them for us on top of the charts Tuesday. I'm so glad that Harris did not try to hit that note. I know he was really into this song.
No way I would have been able to hit that note.
Some people don't care. They love the song that much. They will try to hit the note regardless. That's probably why a lot of people don't cover this jam as much. Only a few people can cover this song, because you can't hit the notes on this joint
at all.
It's unbelievable. Who did the original?
This is Minnie Riperton.
Minnie I know it was. Is she a one-hit wonder?
I mean, I couldn't tell you another hit.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean she's a one-hit wonder. It means I know never.
You're pretty in the know when it comes to music, and I don't know that name other than from this song. And I didn't even know the last name. I think it was like Minnie something.
Yeah.
I know. All right, there you go. All right, top of the charts Tuesday. Always fun. Our musically themed day of the week. All right, let's get to the FLXATX.com. You can go to FLXATX on all of your social media websites as well, and you can go up there and you can go check out all of the information for. Also, actually, take that out, the ULL Soccer State Tournament information, but also there's the Austin area 7-on-7 state qualifying tournament dates as well. So they got a lot of information up there for you. You can go check that out at FLXATX.com. And don't forget, hold up, actually tomorrow, we're doing Flex tomorrow, I believe.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, because we're done with baseball. So Flex will be tomorrow after Ball Don't Lie is done. We will have the Flex for you. So you'll have the Flex crew coming in tomorrow to talk some more about that. But go to the website and you can get a ton of information, all of the info you need for the UIL Soccer State Tournament and also for the 2023 Austin Area 7-on-7 state qualifying tournament dates as well. All right. You got anything for Flex?
No, that was perfect.
All right, appreciate you. All right, we're coming back. We'll get into our NFL news, notes, and nuggets. Cowboys reportedly really like Rojo. There is a report, an update on the acquisition of Odell Beckham Jr. by the Ravens. Apparently, Lamar Jackson was the one spearheading the recruitment of one Odell Beckham Jr. Maybe that's a good sign for Lamar being a Raven in the future. Albert Breer's latest report, his Monday morning quarterback from yesterday, has me a little not upset. I'm just a little stressed out as a Texans fan. If you're a Texans fan, it may stress you out too. So we'll come back and discuss that, what Longhorns are trending in the draft for the Cowboys, and Carson Palmer. Was he that off with these comments that Joe Burrow is better than Patrick Mahomes? All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Top of the charts Tuesday. That's when my man Patrick takes jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history and plays them for us. That's why it's one of my favorite musically themed days of the week. You always can be a part of the show. You're the heartbeat of this thing. You hit us up on the Specs text line, 512-337-3776. We're here for a good time, but not a long time because we're off early. 6:15 for Texas baseball versus Texas State. My man Craig Way on the call and doing a great job as always. I heard Ty Harrington, and I believe Ty Harrington's going to be on the call with Craig today.
Yes.
I heard Coach Harrington on with B&E this morning, and Craig almost sounded a little annoyed by it, but it was a great take by Coach Harrington that he's now observed Craig Way, working with Craig so often during the games, that he thinks they should do like a documentary on Craig. Him calling all like the games and calling all the different sports and all of the trials and tribulations that he faces, but still manages to get the product on the air, because that's all Craig Way thinks about, and making sure that it's a quality product.
Yep.
That's all that matters. All the stuff behind the scenes, the stress that he goes through, you'll never know. Patrick knows about it. We know about it. I mean, he recently got in a car wreck, right?
On the way back, trying to get back
to call games. Like, he goes through a lot there. And think about how often he's been delayed because the flight's been canceled or the flight's been postponed. And that's going to make Craig late, so he's got to go rent a car instead and drive. Like, these stories, I'm telling you, for Craig, they happen monthly because he never really has a break. Most play-by-play, guys, gals around the country, they have a break because they don't call every sport. He calls every sport pretty much that he can. If he could get into calling soccer and other stuff like that, he would. He just don't have the time. But most play-by-play people do not call football, men's and women's basketball, and baseball.
Yeah.
It's just too damn
Remember,
tough.
we talked about it. I was
and football, high school football stuff, too.
And not only that, he's a multitasker during that time because he's calling the game. He's looking at the other computer on the side. He's got another one on his phone where he's looking to see what's happening so he can give you real-time information.
You've observed this.
It's amazing.
You've observed this.
It is absolutely amazing. And the reason why I feel Craig was so annoyed, because somebody brought it up to me today. I said, you know why Craig does not want to do it? He's part of the CIA.
That's always been my theory.
Yeah,
exactly. He's a covert agent.
Yeah, he was like, I don't want people following me. I don't want cameras around me telling them my business.
All the time. That's
telling my business.
It's been my theory ever since I worked with Craig. I was like, Craig is basically a secret agent, and he doesn't like people working, knowing about his business.
That's right.
All right, but yeah, Craig Way will be on the call with Coach Harrington tonight. All right, let's get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets while we have some time here. Speaking of NFL, Hard Knock Life coming up. What you got for the people?
We got our man Kyle Yeomans coming on from the Dallas Cowboys that is going to talk, obviously, about the Dallas Cowboys, what's happening in the draft, and where he thinks the Cowboys will go with that 26th pick.
Oh, that's perfect because we can start our conversation there as well. Yep. Texter says here, I love how he remembers every back road in the state, every score from every high school game ever played. That's pretty amazing. Yeah, no, it's
photogenic, man.
It is. Like I said, his
memory,
he's photogenic too. He's both.
Yeah.
He's both.
Oh, that's true.
Craig Way's a good-looking man. He's photogenic.
I think I took a picture with Craig
photographic memory. But no, I always say that the craziest thing that I ever watched him in terms of how great his memory is, and we'll get off this because I know Craig Way is probably right now seething.
Yeah, he's gonna text us both and be like, "Quit talking about me."
I used to do high school football games with Craig, and I've watched him do halftime stats and post-game stats, and also the post-game recap of the touchdown and where the drive was and what time in the
yard
game,
line it
yard
was.
line. And I swear I've seen him do it without using a piece of paper with the information on it. Right. He's just going all straight up recall, just recall in the brain type stuff. Yeah. And that to me, that was probably the freakiest thing I've ever seen. Because I'm like, what is he looking at? What is he reading? Is there a prompter he's reading from?
Yeah.
No,
you're looking around.
I was looking around. I was like, where's his paper at? Your boy got paper everywhere. I got everything written down. I'm doing it off the top of his dome, and I'm like, that guy, his talent is wasted. I'm sorry. I know he's the best play-by-play guy in the business. He should be working for our government, protecting America.
Yeah, he's pretty easy to work with, man. It's great.
Yeah, exactly. He makes your job easy. Yeah, he'll make you look good. Yeah. Anyway, all right, getting enough about Craig Way. He'll be coming up for you. If you need your Craig Way fix coming up at 6:15 with Texas Baseball and Coach Ty Harrington, who did a great job on B&E. Coach Ty's doing a great job, too. I love when Coach Ty sits in talking a lot of baseball. When you and Coach Ty break baseball down really well. It's two of the best baseball minds that I've ever actually been around to get to know. You guys do a really good job, and he does a great job too. Okay, let's get to some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. First, talking about the Cowboys, and we'll kind of do quick hitters here because I have a lot of different topics I want to hit. How about this, guys? Multiple reports now. One from your boy, Harge, because you've had him on the show a couple of times. I know you guys keep in contact. Clarence Hill, the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. He actually, on a Twitter post about Rojo, just people talking about how great Roschon Johnson is, he actually replied that the Cowboys really like him. And Bobby Belt, and this was actually last month that Bobby Belt reported. Oh, sorry, this was actually after the Combine. Right after the Combine, Bobby Belt, who covers the Cowboys and also does work on 105 through the Fan, does a really good job. He reported that the Cowboys had a formal visit with Roschon Johnson at the Combine because they really like Roschon Johnson. And so he's been reporting since the Combine. They've been interested. Now we got this Clarence Hill tweet that Clarence Hill said, oh, no, they like him. They really like Rojo. Well, we know they like Bijan. Bijan was working out with Micah Parsons, actually.
Yes, he was.
Yesterday.
Yes, he was.
I don't know how Cowboys related that is, but working out with Micah Parsons, I mean, he's going to become the face of that damn franchise in the next couple of years or so. And I do think it's interesting that the Cowboys could end up with either Bijan early on, if it falls the right way, or if they make a move in the first round to trade up to get him, or, because he ain't going to fall to 26, I think we all know that, or in this third round, you may be primed to have Rojo fall right into your lap, and that would be a hell of an acquisition for the Cowboys. I love me some Rojo.
Oh man, who
and
don't?
Ain't the only one. You sent me the story of my boy Sims.
Yeah.
But Wood, he's got Rojo as his number 3 running back overall.
Yes.
And how about this? Matt Miller, who works for ESPN as their draft scout, one of their draft scouts, he has Rojo as his number 4 running back now. Jim Nagy, executive director of the Senior Bowl, he loves him some Rojo. He recently said on a podcast that, and here's the quote here because I wrote it down, there are some NFL teams with a round 2 grade on Rojo. Round 2?
I like it.
That's Jim Nagy of the Senior Bowl saying that's what he's hearing about Rojo.
Yep.
So Rojo behind the scenes hard right now, man, he's rising fast. Here's a tweet that Jim Nagy had about Rojo. He said, predictably, running back coaches around the NFL are starting to pound the table for Texas' Roschon Johnson. Even with devaluation of running back position, sounds like Johnson could come off board on day 2.
Hello.
Bijan's talented, low mileage, and high character backup is classic, better pro than college player.
Absolutely, because of the low mileage. He was underused too. I mean, he was a person. The best part about Rojo is this. This was a guy that was a quarterback. He was an all-everything quarterback, dual threat to the highest of the dual threat. He moved to a position that he hadn't played before and made it his own. And you wouldn't know that he didn't play running back by the way that he played. You would have thought he was a running back all of his life. The way he accepted the role, the way he went about his work, the way he went in and learned how to pass block, the way he carries himself. He's on the special teams. He's a leader in the locker room. He recreated his body to be a running back and excelled at a position that he had no knowledge of. Shout out to Stan Drayton and shout out to Tashard Choice by getting him prepared to be this type of level of a running back and is on draft boards in that way.
It is amazing. It is amazing. I'm with you. It's pretty amazing considering the transition. He's only been playing the position now for 3 years.
Right.
Like full time.
The surface is he hadn't even broke through the surface yet.
Yeah, and a lot of people have noticed this, right? You're not. I mean, you talk about it, but Jordan Reed, he's another ESPN draft analyst. He wrote, Roschon Johnson, even though he was a number 2 running back at Texas, Johnson caught the eye of scouts, carried the ball only 93 times last season, but averaged 6 yards per tote. And while he lacks an A-level trait, he's very well-rounded. Johnson is a natural tackle breaker who runs with power and vision, and he has also contributed on special teams. You brought that up, Arch, which is repeatedly brought up by scouts on what separates him from the rest of a deep running back class. The most common projection for Johnson from people in the league is 3rd or 4th round. And honestly, that may be low. Like I said, Jim Nagy's talking about round 2 of him. And if the Cowboys like him, they may have to trade up in a later round to get him. because Bobby Belt said, quote, the guy the Cowboys are interested in at Texas is Bijan's backup.
Yeah.
Roschon Johnson, and Roschon Johnson is their prototype back, even more so than Bijan.
Hello.
He said big, tough, physical runner, complete back. He came in at 6 foot, 220 pounds at the combine, averaged 5.5 yards per carry at Texas while splitting time with Bijan. That's a guy I think they really, really like. If you're looking at who the Cowboys could potentially take in the third round as a value person to pair with Tony Pollard. He said Kendre Miller's another player they like, he mentioned as well. He said, but those are the two names to be aware of. Yep. Kendre Miller and Roschon Johnson for the Cowboys insider. So there are some stories like this. We've seen them hard. Priest Holmes.
Yep.
Actually is this story because he was behind Ricky Williams,
yep.
Went to the NFL, became a starting running back, and was great. Alvin Kamara, remember he backed up Jalen Hurd for a while. People forget about that name. Hell, I remember Brandon.
He left Alabama.
He left Alabama.
Right, he left Alabama.
And Brandon Jacobs, I remember he was a third running back behind Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown at one point. So you can have depth at the running back position like that. But Ian Rappaport is saying that Rojo has had 8 workouts or visits with teams. So teams are interested. And when you look at the numbers, it makes sense. And I pointed these out before, but his 4.28 yards after contact per carry is higher than Bijan Robinson's.
Right.
His broken tackle rate in the last 2 years is not only higher than Bijan Robinson, it's the highest in college football in the last 2 years. He's exceptional. He's elite at breaking tackles. So you could you really could get a diamond in the rough, if you will. And he's not necessarily a late bloomer because, as Harsh mentioned, he was considered an elite dual threat quarterback. But I think a lot of guys in the Texas class, Harge, right now, they're high upside guys. And why are they high upside guys? Because a couple of them changed positions.
Right.
They were such good athletes at the Power 5 college level. They changed positions and still are going to get drafted in the middle rounds of the NFL draft at the position they changed to.
Yes.
And they didn't change from high school to college. No, DeMarvion Overshown plays safety.
Yes.
Here at Texas, and then switch. So he's only been playing linebacker for 3 years, and I love what you said. How long has he been playing? Willingly?
Willingly. 2 years. Because he was not happy at the initial conversation. We all thought he was going to transfer. That's how mad he was.
He was upset about it, and ends up working out for him because ideally he's going to get coveted in the NFL as a linebacker, but not as a safety. And that's why he's got a high upside. He's only been playing the position for 3 years. This is why Rojo upside is tremendous. He's elite at a few areas in terms of his skill set, but he's only been playing the position for 3 years now.
No doubt.
So tremendous upside. And I would say the same thing even for a guy like Moro Ojomo. I mean, I think Moro Ojomo also tremendous upside for a different reason than those other guys. His upside is because he was so young. I mean, he's 21 years old.
Right.
5th-year senior that's 21 years old. You just don't see that.
You don't.
And by the way, he hasn't played football that long. Remember, he enrolled at Katy at like 13.
Yes.
He was
and then he came to Texas at 17.
Came to Texas at, he's basically kind of a phenom the whole time. Remember, he was born in Nigeria, moved to Cali when he was 8, enrolled at Katy when he was like 12, 13 years old. So he was really smart, honestly. High level IQ. But he was, talking about 17 when he enrolled here at Texas and is 21 years old now after being a 5th-year starter. His upside, tremendous.
Yes.
Because he's still a baby and yet he's played so much football.
That's why it is interesting to see, and you talked about this earlier this week, Rod, or early last week when you were talking about the different players that are so high on all these draft boards from where they were a few years ago. You talked about Keandre Coburn. You talked about Moro. You talked about the fact that Rojo has skyrocketed, Overshown. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the bell cow has always been Bijan, but now everybody, and I've talked about this a ton, if you have some good players on your team, you have an opportunity to shine when they come to check out that player. I've always said that.
A great point.
I've always thought about it. Same with baseball, same with basketball. If somebody comes into any sporting arena to watch a specific kid, you have an opportunity to shine as well. You don't have to try to outshine them. Just go out there and play your game, and people are going to recognize what everybody else has already known about you.
That's a great point. Honestly, I owe that type of mentality my entire career is based on that. I was a late bloomer. I didn't get my first letter from a college until after my junior year, and it wasn't to some big time college, by the way. My teammate Jerome Sapp, who played in the NFL, got a Super Bowl ring. I mean, with the Colts. I mean, just a beast. He was an All-American. He was a parade All-American as a junior. He was like a USA Today All-American as a junior safety in high school. Just a freak. Everybody would come to see him. They came to see him, and I had a breakout game one game, and Tim Brewster, Brew, who's with my man Deion Sanders now, was at that game.
Time.
And I remember Bruce say, "Hey, I know they all want Sapp. I want you."
Yeah.
He came down to the locker. He was like, "They all want your boy. I want you."
There it is.
And he's like, "I'm coming for you."
There it is.
I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah."
I've been waiting for this moment.
I really was. I had not been recruited. I was like, "Oh man, that's kind of crazy." And then after that, everything kind of blew up. But getting to your point, they came to see Sapp.
Yeah.
But hey, man, I left an impression. That's what you got to do.
You're supposed to.
Louis Riddick, also big Overshown fan. He wrote a column earlier this week about his favorite prospects and sleepers. At the top of his sleeper list, I'm not BSing, DeMarvion Overshown. Top of his sleeper list.
Freak.
At the top of it.
Freak.
And he has stated that, yeah, I mean, my man CB has sent us a tweet, but he talked about it. He tweeted it out too that if, that he would jump to build his roster with a guy like DeMarvion Overshown, pretty much.
Yeah.
So he likes DeMarvion Overshown. We'll see what that does for his overall value. All right, let's talk about Albert Breer really quickly, and then we'll move on to some other NFL items. Those we don't hit, we can hit a little bit later on. I can hit them in Raj around the day as well. But let's get to this Albert Breer report because it's a little upsetting. It is.
For who?
Well, for Texans fans, it's a
There it
little
is.
upsetting.
That's what I thought.
It's a little upsetting for Texans fans out there. So Albert Breer, he had a column today, or yesterday, I think it says Monday Morning Quarterback actually, where he talked about where he believes all the top 7 picks are going to fall in the upcoming NFL draft. Here's an excerpt when he's talking about the Texans. So he says it's tough to get a real read on what the Texans are doing at number 2. But I'm less convinced it'll be a quarterback than I was a month ago. If Young were to fall to them, then yeah, I think Houston will take him. If not, it's probably murkier. The evidence I have comes down to Houston's effort to go up to number 1. At one point, the Texans and Bears were closing in on a deal that have the teams flipping spots, with Chicago then doing a deal with Carolina to drop from the number 2 pick after trading with the Texans to the number 9 pick. Houston got a little uncomfortable with it in the end, and the Bears moved forward in doing their deal with the Panthers. What can we take from that? Well, Houston's willingness to go up to first tells us there's a quarterback it likes enough to take there. Otherwise, there'd be no reason to go up. But what if the Texans had only one quarterback they saw as worthy of the top 2 pick? And that, to the fact that the Houston GM Nick Caserio and DeMeco Ryans weren't traveling all over the kingdom come to quarterback pro days, and there's definitely some mystery here. So basically what he's saying is if the Texans wanted to go up to number 1, maybe they did have one quarterback in mind with that number 1 overall pick. And if they did, right now, they're going to be at the will, essentially, of the number 1 overall pick by the Panthers and whatever the Panthers choose. They're just going to be left up to the odds and the football gods, and hopefully their quarterback falls to them. This was my fear, because that means the Texans did try to get the number 1 overall pick. I don't know what happened that made them reluctant to trade, because they got plenty of trade capital.
Yeah.
They have 2 first-round picks this year, 2 first-round picks in next year's draft. So basically, all the reports are now teams are falling in love with Bryce Young. We brought up yesterday the Chris Mortensen report that he says now the Panthers are all in on Bryce Young. ESPN's Matt Miller. Now, this is interesting. Patrick, you have this audio. So Matt Miller, he's an ESPN draft scout, and he does a really good job for them. He, as recent as 48 hours ago, I would say, matter of fact, this past weekend, he had essentially C.J. Stroud going number 1 overall. And I think in the last 24 to 48 hours, basically, he has decided, or he's waffled on that prediction, that projection. Here is Matt Miller. He was on ESPN Radio, ESPN Draft Scout, And here's why he believes that the tea leaves are so strong right now, signaling Bryce Young number 1 overall, that he decided to waffle on his own report.
Where they should be leaning with who they're going to take number 1 in less than 3 weeks.
Yeah, the GM there, Scott Fitterer, is an old-school scout, so he's watched a lot of film for sure. If you had talked to me Friday afternoon, I would have said C.J. Stroud. C.J. Stroud was all the buzz when we were in Indianapolis at the scouting combine. C.J. Stroud's been the buzz since the pro day. They had the owner and his wife at the Ohio State pro day, spending all this time with C.J. Stroud. But over the weekend, I started you talk to more people. They're talking to more people, and I'll tell you, the forecast has started to change. And I think Alabama's Bryce Young is regaining that spot, because remember at the end of the college football season when all that film was being created, all we talked about was, man, Bryce Young is that guy. You know, he's the player who elevated a bad Alabama offense this past year. He's a Heisman Trophy winner. He's poised. He's accurate. He can do all this on the move. And as happens, we get excited about Anthony Richardson and we get excited about C.J. Stroud. But the closer we get to April 27th and Roger Goodell walking across that stage, the closer we get to that time, I think we go back to the roots of the player. And for me, and I think for a lot of teams as well, Bryce Young is still the best quarterback in this draft.
All right, and to add, I don't know if it's insult to injury.
Oh, it's definitely that.
It feels like that. Mel Kiper, his latest mock draft, Kiper now has Bryce Young going number 1 overall as well. Matter of fact, my man Patrick pulled some audio of Mel Kiper as well, because might as well make it legit here. We knew this was going to happen when the Texans screwed up the number 1 overall pick. So here's audio of Mel Kiper as well, of him describing why Bryce Young is now his number 1 overall pick in his mock draft too.
Why do you now believe it will be Young who goes 1 overall?
Just the decision-making, Greeny, and the fact that this past year he didn't have that elite supporting cast, that he put up the numbers, he dealt with the injury, played through it, and only missed the 1 game. And I think people just look at him as a guy who has the it factor. He's a winner. He's got that sparkle, and a guy that Carolina, I think, can move forward with. They have the infrastructure there in place with the O-line, the supporting cast, all those coaches that will be around surrounding the quarterback. I think Bryce Young, would be the guy that at this stage of where we are in the process. And I listen to Adam and Mort. Adam and Mort have been saying it's going to be Bryce Young. So as I always say, Greeny, I ain't the smartest guy out there, but I have some common sense. That'd be an idiot if I didn't listen to Mort and Adam when you're hearing Bryce Young could go number 1 from even your friends in the league. So it's Bryce Young for me right now.
There's it. So Adam Schefter and Chris Morton, he's talking about them as well. And Daniel Jeremiah, his latest mock draft, gentlemen. He also has Bryce Young going number 1 overall. There is Todd McShay. He's the only one kind of holding out. He's got C.J. Stroud still going number 1 in his latest mock draft. But guys, remember my fear was that if the Texans are falling in love with Bryce Young, say they like both quarterbacks, but they love Bryce Young, I was always told by women, you got to fight for what you love. All right?
Yep.
I think the Texans, they tried to go up to number 1. I don't know what happened in that Albert Breer story, why they decided to go in a different direction and not trade for the number 1 overall pick. But I think they need to revisit that. All right? If you love Bryce Young, fight for what you love, man. Fight for him. Go get him if that is your guy. Because right now, everybody seems like they're falling in love with Bryce Young.
Do you stand outside with your boombox over your head?
There you go.
And tell them,
come on, man.
I love
John
you.
Cusack style. I love that.
Hey.
Right now, do it.
You still got a few weeks. I'm telling you, you need to hype up C.J. Stroud. Start hyping C.J. Stroud right now, because you're going to try and call Carolina's bluff. Because you're seeing if Carolina is bluffing right now, and they are going all in to try and get the Texans to give them 3 first-round picks to move up 1 pick.
I don't know if they're bluffing. I think they're in love with him. I think everybody's falling for him.
But it's going to take 3 first-rounders. So so both first-rounders this year, and a pick next year. You're going to have to give up to move up 1 spot.
Yeah. And you know what? That's the price of incompetence and ineptitude.
But here's what I think.
Of you losing the tankathon.
I think the reality is the Texans are not necessarily out on a quarterback. I think the Texans view C.J. Stroud and Will Levis really close, and I think they're going to go try and trade down and take Will Levis. Now, that I don't like either. I don't like either. But I think that is more looking of, they say C.J. Stroud's on a number 2 pick. He's about a number 5 pick, and so is Will Levis. So let's trade down, and we'll go get Will Levis.
Kiper believes that because Kiper's got him as his QB3.
Yeah, and so I think that is more of where the Texans lean, is if we can't get Bryce Young, then why don't we trade down, and then we get more picks, and then we'll have the quarterback, and then we'll make him into a great player. This all comes down to me is of the Texans trying to be smarter than they need to be. And they're trying to go, well, we're not going to give up all these picks to get Bryce Young because we like him, but we don't really like him. Look, we see all his faults, but we also don't like C.J. Stroud. So, well, with this other guy, we can sell ourselves on.
It's one of two things, and Pat, you just hit on them. It's either the Texans have evaluated the quarterback market and they believe there is not significant difference between basically 1, 2, and 3. They've basically have decided, because if it was a significant difference, they'd trade up to go get number 1 and go down. No, if he's a pocket-sized Patrick Mahomes, we need him. Yeah. All right, he's our guy. So they decided not a lot of difference between 1, 2, and 3, or they're a fluster cluck of a franchise, and they've messed it up again. That's basically. And I hope it's not the latter. I hope it's the former and not the latter. That they've decided, no, it's not a lot of difference between these.
No
QBs.
matter what, start the CJ Stroud hype train. Start it up, because even if your plan is to trade back, you need to make C.J. Stroud seem like the best guy in the second best guy in the draft, best guy in the draft, and you need to get him so you can trade back.
Yeah,
and you need someone to fall in love with C.J. Stroud. Start up the hype train, Texans.
I'm with you on that, C.J.
Come on,
Stroud.
guys. This isn't complicated. Start the hype train. Carolina started the hype train.
The Texans don't. They play checkers when everybody else is playing chess. Oftentimes,
just get a hype train, man.
Sometimes they play Connect 4.
King me.
They play Connect
King
4.
me.
Yeah, it's Connect 4. They're playing chess, and the Texans are playing Connect 4. All right, what you got coming up on Hard Knock Life?
We got our man Kyle Yeomans to talk about the Dallas Cowboys and some possible Longhorn news up there in Dallas. Let's see what happens, what the hype is all about.
Oh, there's a lot of hype. A lot of hype. We'll get into that. Talking Cowboys on the other side, right here on Ball Don't Lie. 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Apple Leasing, because you know what? You need to have Apple Leasing on your side. And as soon as you reach out to Apple Leasing, they can help you find the price you want, the payment you want on the car that you want. The car market right now is extremely frustrating. It is a labyrinth to try to navigate. You need someone that can walk you through it every step of the way and help you get the car that you want, but also help you get the price that you want. And that's why they've been doing business here in Austin for almost 40 years. The professionals over at Apple Leasing, they can help you. It all it takes is one phone call or one click on Apple Leasing's website. And like I said, you'll get a quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They can even give you an estimate on the value of your trade-in right over the phone. Apple Leasing's simple interest, easy lease is the key. It's really the secret sauce, if you will, because it gives them a lot more flexibility, which is going to give you more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best, because inflation is out of control. It's through the roof. It's never been more expensive to buy a new car, buy a used car, buy anything for that matter. So leasing makes more sense than ever. You're only paying for the part of the car you're actually using. So call Apple Leasing today at 512-346-9977. That's 512-346-9977. Or visit appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com.
Welcome back to a Top of the Charts Tuesday edition of Ball Don't Lie. It's your boy Hardball Hard. You can follow me on Twitter at Hardball Hard. You can follow my man Rod Babers at Rod Babers. And you can follow the man behind the glass that's in charge of all of our themes during the week at It's Patrick Davis. You can also be a part of the show when you hit us up on the Specs text line 512-337-3776. And joining us right now on the Vaqueros Cafe and Cantina hotline is a man that's been on our airways before, and he is one of the top play-by-play guys that is out there, and I've worked with him, and he does a great job. He is my man, Kyle Youmans. You can follow him at Kyle_Youmans on Twitter. He's part of the Dallas Cowboys Network. You can follow him at Talking Cowboys. He's part of the Draft Show. He's doing unbelievable work. And before we get into it, Kyle, I must say congratulations to your UNT basketball team. You got a championship, and I know that you are very excited about that.
Oh, of course I am. I mean, it's an exciting time whenever you go out and you win an NIT, and I know the fans down in Austin had quite a basketball team and a great run this year as well with the Longhorns and going to the Elite Eight. But for a program like North Texas to go and not only make the NIT but go and win the whole thing, I mean that was a fun run for us and something I'll never forget. Now the Longhorns are going to have to see the byproduct of it though twice a year at least, because Grant McCasland took the job at Texas Tech and he was the head coach with North Texas. So he's the Big 12's problem now, no doubt about it.
So, Kyle, let's get right into it, man. The draft is coming up, and you do great work when you get the draft show going. You do your pre-draft stuff, and you get a chance to talk about a lot of things that have happened over the years with the Dallas Cowboys and lead us all up to the present time. And one of the biggest questions for us is that number 26 pick. Obviously, there's a lot of names that are being thrown out there. One of the biggest names that we have been talking about around here is Bijan Robinson. If Bijan Robinson drops to the number 26 pick, do the Cowboys jump all over it? I've been on record. If they do not, I may renounce my fandom. I might have to.
Whoa. Really? Like, it's that serious?
It's
that you would
that
just say
serious.
out?
That's right. I'll be out of there.
Here's the good news for you, Harge. I think it happens. If he is there at 26, I mean, I would probably fly to Kansas City, turn in the card myself if I possibly could. Bijan Robinson is one of the top skills player, if not the top skills player in the NFL draft this year. And I have him as a top 10, nearly a top 5 player on my board overall. So if he's available at 26, I mean, that is the football god shining down upon you and giving you a gift that if you pass it up on it, then I feel like Harge, you'd be in the right there to maybe try and change the fandom, because I think Bijan's that good of a player. Now, does he fall to pick number 26? Probably not. I think he's good enough to where he could be a top 15 pick, top 10 pick. But if the conversation of positional values surrounding running backs comes into the fold, then I think he could slip a little bit. It just depends on how far he could slip before the Cowboys start maybe either getting on the phone or trying to hope he falls to that 26 spot.
Hey, Kyle, I know there's a thought among some Longhorn fans that Jerry Jones doesn't like Longhorns, doesn't draft Longhorns. But this year, I know there's a lot of hype about Bijan Robinson. I think some of the other Longhorn prospects actually have a higher likelihood to end up with the Dallas Cowboys. DeMarvion Overshown, who we know Dan Quinn likes because of the positionless football aspect of him and his hybridism within his skill set. But also Rojo. Roschon Johnson is a guy that the Cowboys visited with after the combine. And Moro Ojomo is a guy, I think, that also Dan Quinn's defensive philosophy would align with. What are your thoughts about some of the other Longhorn prospects that potentially the Cowboys could be looking at?
No, you brought up all three of the guys that I know the Cowboys have had interest in. I don't think there is a stigma around the Cowboys in drafting Texas players. I really don't. I think you look at Connor Williams a couple years ago. They went out and got him. Of course, he was a DFW product out of Coppell initially, and he, of course, started and played well for the Cowboys for a number of seasons ever since he was drafted in the second round. But I'm looking at Roschon Johnson as kind of that late-round sleeper, as a guy that if you don't go and get Bijan Robinson, I think they would be extremely happy with drafting with other positions first, maybe go take care of the defensive line, go and take care of linebacker, maybe pick up with one of these very talented wide receivers or corners to kind of add to the group that you have already. But then you wait until maybe the 4th or 5th round and Roschon Johnson's sticking around. I know the scouts are very high on him. I know they've kept an eye on him since they saw him in the Senior Bowl practices before he actually got injured and unfortunately didn't get to participate too much. But I think he's somebody that fits, like you said, what they want to do on offense, which is run the ball and run the ball a lot. As for the defensive side, I think both Ojomo and Overshown fit that mold as well. I've been on record of saying that I think if there was one pick to put your chips in on the Cowboys or on ending up being a Cowboy at some point, I think it's Overshown. I think he, as a player at the second level, brings flexibility. I think you could bring him up into onto the line of scrimmage. You could rush him off the edge. You could play him against some of these big tight ends that you have to go up against every week in the NFL. Put him in coverage because he's a converted safety. I really do like some of these prospects and the way that they fit. I would be shocked, actually, if the Cowboys don't end up with a single Longhorn, either through the draft or possibly in the after the draft in the undrafted free agent market as well, because there's just so many options and so many good fits that I feel like it'd be hard to pass up on if the value is there.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's what we've been thinking, too. We're talking to Kyle Youmans. You can follow him at Kyle_Youmans on Twitter. Kyle, it's kind of funny that you brought that up because your last part about the tight end position, about Overshown being able to cover the tight end. There's been a lot of noise about the Cowboys taking a tight end at number 26. I'm a big fan of Jake Ferguson. I'm a Hendershot as well, but I think Ferguson is the guy. I'm not looking at them to take a tight end at that position in the draft. What position do you think the Cowboys are going to be looking for at the number 26 pick if that all falls into place?
Man, it's so wide open. It really is, because I think if you want to pigeonhole the Cowboys specifically, they need offense, right? That's the number one need. You either need a dynamic pass catcher or you need an offensive lineman to kind of be in the middle and protect Dak Prescott. But the value lines up much better with some of these defenders, some of these edge rushers like a Will McDonald out of Iowa State, or maybe even some of these corners that might slip, like a Deonte Banks from Maryland. I think the value fits better on the defensive side of the ball than it does offensively. The only position, Mike, that lines up with the value of where you're picking and how much impact it's going to play on your offense is probably the tight end spot. And that's why you hear so much of that noise. I mean, there's three guys that are first-round potential players. I have Dalton Kincaid as my top guy. Utah, he's an all-round player. He's a dynamic receiver. He's a better receiver right now than Jake Ferguson. And he's better than Peyton Hendershot at that as well, because I know Hendershot was probably seen as the better receiver. I think Kincaid's better than both of those guys in that aspect, and he's a better blocker than Hendershot. He's up there with a Jake Ferguson and what he could bring. Michael Mayer is your Jason Witten-esque type of tight end. I'm not going to compare the two in terms of their potential. I think Mayer is a great player. Comparing him to Goldjack and Witt would be just another level, but I think one thing to look with Mayer is that he's a block-first tight end, and then he's a sure-thing catcher. You can go and get that from a couple different spots. So that's where I agree with you. But if it's a guy like Dalton Kincaid, I think taking a guy at 26 like that could open up your offense as a whole. It could really give you some extra options. I think Kincaid would be a better fit than the last Dalton you had, and Dalton Schultz. I think he could be a better fit to this offense, and I think he would make it a little bit more dynamic than Schultz did. And I think if that's the case, it's going to help Dak Prescott out, and ultimately that's what you want to do with that 26th overall pick.
Hey, Kyle, let me ask you about the Cowboys offseason, because they've done some things straight up that have just seemed uncharacteristic of them lately.
Yeah.
They got into the trade market, which is something the most homegrown team in the NFL hasn't really done. It's paid off huge for them so far this offseason with the move to get Stephon Gilmore and also to get Brandon Cooks. They also invested in safety. This is a team that notoriously they don't put a ton of money or draft capital or salary capital in safety, and we see them doing that too. What's going on with the Cowboys this offseason? I mean, is this the George Costanza, the opposite going on with Jerry Jones in the front office? What's happening? What to you, in your opinion, is starting this change in philosophy for the Cowboys this offseason?
Well, I think what they're doing is not necessarily a change in philosophy. I think it's a change in the success of applying that philosophy, because Stephen Jones has been on record in the past of saying we've attempted to make trades like this to where you only allow a fifth-round pick to fly away and you bring in a starter at corner and a starter at wide receiver like they did with Stephon Gilmore and Brandon Cooks. But in the past, teams aren't necessarily receptive to that. Well, this year, they were able to find two trade partners that were willing, in the Colts and the Texans, to part ways with those starters for relatively little payment in return. So you end up spending minimal draft capital. You don't fold your entire weekend of the NFL draft by trying to trade for a couple of guys. And you leave the door open to continue to improve your roster, because now you're in a spot when draft weekend comes around that you could take best player available. So, yeah, it's been a breath of fresh air for Cowboys fans for the most part, because, yes, you go out and you get two guys that are not only veterans but are very capable on the field, and they fit in much better with the Cowboys than I think they even did in their past teams. I mean, look at Stephon Gilmore, for example, is a guy that was cornerback one in any room that he's ever been in. Now, as a savvy veteran, he can step in and guard the second best guy that an opponent is going to throw at him. He can be that cornerback too, and Stephon Gilmore can help Trayvon Diggs continue to elevate his game. Same thing with Brandon Cooks. He doesn't have to be wide receiver one. He can slot in behind a CeeDee Lamb, and then it's just an extra weapon. Plus, it allows Michael Gallup to go from being a lackluster number two wide receiver to being a solid, if not above average, or even good wide receiver three. So it opens up the possibilities of your roster, not only from what you already have, but what you're going to add come draft weekend. And it gives you so many different options. So that way, if a Bijan Robinson falls to 26, you don't have to go and get a corner, or you don't have to go and get a wide receiver, because you've already done that earlier in the offseason.
So, Kyle, if you were about to walk into Jerry Jones's office, which I'm sure you've already done that before, I want you to present the case for your favorite player, Kincaid, and why they need to take him at the tight end position.
Ooh. Okay, let me get it right here. Kincaid is not my favorite player.
Okay,
I just say he's probably the most popular value. Let's just say if you're talking straight value right now at 26, I think that's it. My favorite player that's a realistic shot is Bijan, because I still think there's a shot, nice. Even as good as Bijan Robinson is, I still think because of the position that he plays and the stigma that's around running back, I think the fact that he could fall is still on the table. Here's my pitch for Bijan, though. I think there's a possibility that if he falls out of the top 15, right? So he falls out of the top 15. I think they go and try and get him. I think they try and trade up and go and make a move to get up to pick number 16, 17, 18, right around that range. So that way there's a couple of teams maybe in the early 20s, maybe the late teens that could possibly pick Bijan. They jump all of those guys by all of those teams by packaging a couple picks together, going up and making sure they get their guy. I would not be shocked if that's on the table come draft weekend. If you start to see Bijan slip and he's somehow out of the top 15, I bet you they get on the phone and they go get him, because he's that special of a player. That's my pitch, is that he adds an element to your offense that it hasn't had over these last couple of years, and it can elevate the tight end group. It can elevate the wide receiver group. It can elevate your quarterback, which is, of course, the most important part. Bijan Robinson is a weapon that the Cowboys have not had at any point. You pair that to the weapons they already have, and it makes things so much more fun.
Man, you made me smile so big.
I think a lot of people smile.
Yeah, I think I showed all 32 teeth just now, brother. I wanted to make sure that we got that out there, man. Tell everybody where to follow you and where they can follow you for your draft analysis with your crew with the Draft Show.
Yeah, so Kyle Yeomans on Twitter, KYLE_YOUMANS. And then we are on the draft show, DallasCowboys.com. I've got an article coming out tomorrow that's a positional fit for every single position for the Cowboys out of the NFL draft. And I'll do that for the offensive side and the defensive side. And then when draft weekend gets here, you can tune in to us on the Dallas Cowboys radio network or online at DallasCowboys.com. We go pick by pick, wall to wall. We do not miss a single pick. We are there for the entirety of the NFL draft, and I'm hosting all of that coverage. So it should be a great weekend, as it always is. And let's go find some talent, right? Let's go get a couple players that the Cowboys could put a star on the side of their helmet and be proud of over these next couple years.
I love it. I love it.
Got
I
me
love
hyped,
it.
Kyle.
That's right. That's right. And after the draft, you're getting married, if I'm not mistaken, right?
The weekend after, and
That's
that
right.
is not that was all on purpose. That was definitely
He was like, get me away from all of this so I can get and relax with my beautiful wife. Give her my best, and best of luck to you guys
Congrats,
as well,
brother.
man. Congrats.
Thanks, guys, so much for having me. Thanks for all the well wishes, and I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
I can't wait either. I like that information that he gave us about a Bijan.
Hey.
Go on up and get him.
You know what?
Go on up and get him.
I love, honestly, even what I loved more than his Bijan take, which it was fantastic, was the take about he believes that there's going to be a Longhorn from this class on the Cowboys roster, whether drafted or undrafted.
Right.
And I said that. I said,
You've been
man,
saying it from the beginning.
It makes all of these Longhorns make sense for the Cowboys in some way, form, or fashion. They all do. All the ones who are legit prospects. So good stuff there from Kyle. Once again, my man Harge opening up the contact list.
We got it
for all of the folks that he knows. He knows every damn body. All right, we come back. We got Off the Record on the other side, right here on Ball Don't Lie. 104 down the horn. All right. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104 Down the Horn. Okay, I don't get to watch Jeopardy. You guys don't either because you're doing the show. Maybe you DVR Jeopardy. Or you stream it online. I can't believe that I was talking to these guys in the break, and I said something about DVRing a television program, and I realized how dated it sounded. Like I sounded like an old man, because DVR now is a dated term.
It is.
Because everybody streams everything. I still have DVR, but I guess most people are like, yeah, they don't utilize it.
I have it now, but I have like a streaming TV service, so I can just click on the thing, and it records it.
Automatically.
But especially because I'm doing sports stuff. Sports doesn't stream. Like it's not like you can just always watch a game later. That's not always out there as much. TV shows, yes.
Yeah, that's why I DVR a lot of sports things, and I watch them like delayed because I don't like to watch sports real time because I don't like the commercials and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So anyway, I sound like an old man. But anyway, if you were a fan of Jeopardy, you'd have to DVR it, I would say. Or I guess you could go stream it if you want to. So I don't watch Jeopardy, but I like Jeopardy, actually. I bet Craig Way would be great at Jeopardy. Man, he really.
Oh my goodness, he'd be the champ.
He'd be really good at Jeopardy.
It'll be boring for him because he knows all the answers.
It probably would be. Jeopardy champ Brian Hennigar. Apparently, and he's a Jeopardy champ. He won $23,000 on Jeopardy. But after his Jeopardy appearance, he was bombarded with a ton of tweets about his appearance, and apparently, a lot of people on Twitter thought that his appearance on the game show that basically he looked like he was sporting the Hitler stash. I'm not making that. This is true. He responded saying,
"You mean Michael Jordan?"
Yes. Yeah, that kind of thing. He said, I'm seeing what a bunch of jerks on Twitter are doing because they can focus on is my looks. So I'm going to be leaving Twitter for a while. And then he came back to Twitter. And he said he came back because he got some positive responses. He also decided to use some of that negative publicity for some good and said he was going to donate money and some of his Jeopardy winnings to the Anti-Defamation League. And in the end, he said he was going to just shave this mustache. He decided the mustache no longer has a place in his life. He first vowed to shave the facial hair but settled for growing a goatee instead, because the Hitler stash, or at least the stash that he had, which some people thought too closely resembled the Hitler stash, has no place in society. I've told you guys this before. There's a reason. Michael Jordan was the last one to do it. He's the most beloved athlete in the history of mankind. Why? Because there was no negative backlash for him wearing a Hitler stash on a commercial.
Yeah.
On a Hanes commercial.
But everybody was curious to why did you cut your mustache like that?
Have you seen the picture of the guy?
It doesn't look like a Hitler stash. I don't
think the Hitler stash is what it looks like.
What does it look like?
I think he just looks like Hitler. Oh. I think this dude is a couple inches of mustache away from looking just like Hitler.
So you're saying it's not that the Hitler, but he does have a mustache, but it's not.
No, because it's corner lip to corner lip.
More. But you're saying they just think he looks like Hitler?
Yeah, I think the hairdo. He's got the hair part over, and then he's just kind of got the face.
But he does say the Hitler stash is a big part of it. That's why he's growing the goatee. He's not shaving the mustache.
Yeah, you got to change the hair too.
Yeah. He did say that he's basically going to change his whole personal style, so he doesn't.
I don't think you need to do any of it. You don't look that much like Hitler.
I don't think he looks that much like Hitler.
But this is what happens when you put
a cut. It's the cut, the way he has it leaning to the side. The mustache looks like a regular mustache to me.
But that's what he got.
Yeah, I think if he didn't have a mustache at all, though, it may not. If the resemblance may not be there, you can just picture it now.
It's not a porn stash. It's like it's a cross between kind of a porn stash and a Hitler stash. So he probably needs to go full on porn stash if he's going to go that route.
Oh, and if you look at a picture of him not smiling, it's so much worse.
Does he actually look like Hitler to you?
The one where
enough that if he's not smiling, you're like, but he looks like a cross between.
And it's at the angle.
I love that Hitler was such a disgusting, horrible person. You can't even look like Hitler.
You couldn't even accidentally look like it.
This guy's growing a goatee because they said he looked too much like Hitler.
Oh, I mean, it's not enough. He looks like a fatter, older Hitler.
So you can't even look like a fatter, older Hitler?
No, I would if no one mentioned it, I would never have picked it up.
Okay.
Let's put it that way. If no one had told me, I wouldn't walk around and be like, who does he look like?
You're right.
I wouldn't have done that.
I agree. But now you said it, I guess he does kind of look like Hitler. But yeah, that's just crazy. Either way, It's pretty wild that this guy got called out. And he actually is going to grow a goatee as a result. Now, he does not want to look the same anymore as a result of the backlash.
Yeah.
Crazy story. Wild story.
Unbelievable.
All right, enough talk about Hitler and Hitler stashes. Don't grow a Hitler stash. And by the way,
Be ready for the backlash if you
do. You deserve the backlash because everybody knows what a Hitler stash is.
You know what I'm going to go with? He looks like if Hitler was a big Tennessee Volunteers fan.
Oh, he does have the colors right there.
He has the colors.
Yeah.
He's got the face of a Tennessee Volunteers fan.
Oh, you just called out the Volunteers fans. You say Hitler would be a Volunteers fan?
No, I'm saying if
He was a
Hitler
college football
was.
fan?
I'm saying if Hitler was a Tennessee Volunteers fan.
Oh, okay.
Oh, my God.
That is what he would look like.
That's what he would look like.
Yeah.
He probably wouldn't be a fan of college football. We know why.
No.
All right, we'll come back right here. Get into Steve Sarkisian's media availability today. All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Top of the charts Tuesday. That's when we play jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Very, very 80s. I can feel the 80s now just kind of flowing through my veins.
I know who it is, but
Oh, man. This is on a soundtrack. I just can't think of the soundtrack right now.
Oh, this is a big old hit.
This is on a soundtrack somewhere. I can see it in a movie. I can see it definitely was in a movie somewhere. I just don't know what movie.
It's one of those.
What
is that? Hughes.
Yeah, it's one of those. I just don't know which one
Who
right
is
now.
this?
This is Billy Ocean.
Billy Ocean. I thought it was.
Billy Ocean.
Is this Caribbean Queen?
No, this is
this
Get Out of My Car.
Yeah.
Get out of my dreams.
It was
and get
on
in my
the soundtrack.
Get out of my dreams again.
Is that the Corys? What movie is this?
I have no idea.
Oh.
I just know the
In
song.
My dreams and Get Into My Car. This was in a soundtrack for a movie the Corys were in. Remember the Corys? Corey Haim and Corey Feldman.
Yeah.
They were in a movie about typical 80s movie about trying to get their license or something. And this was one of the key songs in the movie, if I'm not mistaken.
I could believe that.
I could be way off about this, but I'm telling you.
You're
if I
not
look on
off.
IMDb of the Corys right now, CV is probably going to send it to me, or somebody on Specs Text Line probably going to send it to me.
Please do, because
Is it
I
in
really
Mannequin?
would like.
Who says Mannequin? I recorded Mannequin just this. I don't think it's Mannequin. Now,
I mean, it
Mannequin,
could have been in it, too.
License to Drive? Maybe that is it, Jeff. Maybe it. It ain't License to Drive. Thank you very much. Yes. Was it not the Corys? I thought it was a Corey in there. I could be wrong about that. Either way, now I'm getting a ton of License to Drive. Thank you, guys. And it might have been in multiple movies because Billy Ocean's, he's just that big time. But I do remember, I remember watching a movie with
Yes, that is the Corys.
Is it the Corys?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, I'm not that old. Well, actually, I am. I just revealed how old I am.
You really did. You really
I think
did.
one
And
of
it's the very first song on the soundtrack.
It is. And one of the Corys
Yeah.
is no longer with us, correct? Didn't one of them?
Yes, Corey Haim
unfortunately-
is dead.
Yes.
I was going to say, come on,
Passed away.
Chad.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do that.
And
but
Corey Feldman is crazy.
Yeah, he is.
Yes, he's been on like reality TV shows
Well,
too, right?
he has a band that he's a musician, but his band is all his angels. And they're Corey's Angels, and then it's basically like all these girls who moved to L.A. to be famous.
Oh, no.
And then he when they're down and out, then he brings them into their house.
Oh, I don't like this.
And then he has them. They're in his
I don't
band,
like where this
and
is
then they
going.
all dress as angels. Oh, it's apparently
This is-
a real freaky scene, dude.
What? That is
Don't forget,
creepy.
he used to dress like Michael Jackson.
I
Yeah.
remember that.
Oh, and he has claimed that him and Michael used to dance together all the time. That's why their moves are so similar, because they learned to
Okay.
dance together.
All right. Okay, that's not where I thought you were going with that, by the way.
No.
That's why
He
their
was like,
moves are
what
so
about
similar.
him? Uh-oh.
Yeah, so does Corey really think he still can dance? Oh, man.
Oh, my
yeah.
goodness.
Oh no, he still puts out music videos
That
and
is
stuff.
amazing. I did not. Wow. I don't know why do you know so much about Corey Feldman?
Because it's hilarious.
You got a rabbit hole one
I've hung
night.
out with enough comedians, and it's fun to watch that stuff when
That
you're.
is great. And I saw him recently on, oh man, it was some bad movie about, it was like a spoof on the Friday 13th, and he was in it randomly. Don't ask me why I was watching. It was late, and I didn't want to watch infomercials or something. So I have no idea. But anyway, enough about that. Let's get to some Steve Sarkisian sound. Oh, this texter says it was on Mannequin. It was not on Mannequin, but Mannequin, I think it's an underrated soundtrack. And one of my favorite 80s songs is on the Mannequin soundtrack, too. Very underrated. I recorded it because I'm going to force my wife to watch it because she's never seen it. That's why I recorded it.
Nice.
I had to get that done. All right, let's hear from Steve Sarkisian because he did have a media availability today. If we don't get to all the sound here, we'll pick it up in Rod's Random of the Day coming up next segment. So lots of Texas spring football conversation here. Also, Specs text line wide open for you, 512-337-3776. All right, let's get into the first one here because Sark, first of all, Sark said he's going to do a draft for spring football. So he's going to draft the teams. He's going to draft the orange team. He'll draft the white team. And then he said he'll be the one doing the drafting. I'm not sure if he'll have the draft, the rosters ready beforehand, or if he'll do the draft kind of live on the spot, improv. I have no idea. I assume he'll at least have the lines of scrimmage kind of set because you can't just be drafting random people. You got to have that all worked out because you want to have everything even position-wise. So I imagine he'll already have it set up beforehand. But either way, it's going to be a draft, he said. And he said the recent practice they had, the last practice they had, I should say, today, they worked on a lot of situational football where you're talking about third down, where you're talking about red zone, if you're talking about fourth down, short yardage, things like that. Very interesting to hear Sark talk about the importance of these situational practice periods. Here is Steve Sarkisian.
Today we had a segment that was just 2-point plays. We do a lot of, the game of football, what we're really trying to impress upon our guys is made up of special situations. And we don't just run plays. We run plays specific to the situation, whether it's, first, second down, whether it's second and long, whether it's third down, whether it's third and short, whether it's backed up in our own territory, whether it's kind of what we call logo territory, whether it's high red, low red, 2-point plays. So very specific in what we're trying to do, third downs, fourth downs, all those things, right? So we try to break those things up in practice, and then when we scrimmage, we try to let them happen as they come and see if the guys can react to the situation that it is. And that takes a lot of communication because it's the one guy recognizing the situation and then giving the reminders and the alerts to the other guys around him. And that constant communication is what I was pleased with Friday when those situations came up. I felt like there was really good communication and guys played those situations really well. And so that has been a really big step, in my opinion, in the right direction for our program from year 1 now into year 3 in spring practice.
Oh, man, there's so much to unpack there, and I love it, by the way. I mean, because first of all, I kind of flip it to a defensive, from a defensive standpoint, I should say, from a defensive perspective. And you guys have heard me use the term football investigator on this show that, basically when I was at my best, I was turned into a football investigator. And what I mean by that is essentially you're thin slicing. Right? They always talk about quarterbacks having pre-snap reads. Everybody's got a pre-snap read, by the way. Everybody who's not on the line of scrimmage, and even sometimes defensive ends and D-tackles say, no, I got a pre-snap read. I'm reading, the pressure on the fingers of the offensive lineman. I'm reading what's in the backfield, the personnel package. Everybody's got a pre-snap read. We just talk about the quarterback so much. And your pre-snap read as a back level defender, as a DB or as a linebacker, there's all these things all these clues, essentially, all of these data points, these slivers and slices of information, and you can use those bits of data to narrow down the ways an offense can and wants to exploit you on that given play. And these clues include anything from down and distance, formation, personnel package, field position, player matchups, film study, just stuff you've learned in film study, the situational tendencies, the play calling tendencies, the trends, the scouting reports of different players, and then even post-snap, even though you have milliseconds to do it, you still are reading route combinations, the 3-step drop, the wide receiver's release, and honestly, the most important thing to read post-snap for any defensive back is body language. Body language doesn't whisper, it screams. It is obnoxious, it's belligerent, it yells, right? It's vociferous, it's noisy. Body language is what you're reading as a defensive back, all right? And all those little things as a football investigator, they're going to lead you to making the play. All right, they're going to put you in the right position to make the play. That's what Sark is talking about. That's football IQ. That's essentially all it is. I just wrapped it up into something that was easily palatable for you guys, the masses, but that's what football IQ is. As Hart talks about it all the time with baseball, it's just situational awareness. Know your down and distance. Know the formation, the personnel package, the field position, the player matchup, the guy you matched up against, and know what their tendencies are, their strengths, their weaknesses. Then the film study, you should know the situational tendencies, the play calling trends. The scouting report should tell you everything about the players, and you got to get all that, all right, all that information, all that data processed in what, 20 seconds? Maybe less.
Quickly. No matter what, it's got to be quickly.
You got about 15.
It's like the pitch clock. It's like the pitch clock.
Exactly. And if it's a hurry up tempo offense, even quicker than that. That's football IQ. That's football acumen. That's football intelligence. That's any situational intelligence when it comes to sports. And that thin slicing, whoever can do that the best, and you get better at it the more reps you get, I think that's what Sark is referring to here and talking about this situational periods. So I love everything he broke down there, Harge. Even the fact that they're talking more, because you have to talk through situation. If I'm diagnosing all of these clues I just gave you, the down, distance, formation, personal package, and I come up with the answer, I solve the case, I go, oh no, this is twins. And on twins, on second and medium, they love to go double slant, especially when we're on the plus side of the field. When all my indicators are telling me double slant, I'd be a fool, and I'd be selfish and a bad teammate if I don't look inside and go, hey, watch the double slant. Watch the double slant. They're coming with the double slant. And that's what good defenses do. That's what good teammates do. That's what smart football players do. Confident defenses are communicative.
Yep.
They talk a lot.
A lot.
And that's what he's talking about here. I love that. That's my favorite quote, potentially an piece of audio we played from the entire spring.
It's a smart move. And you would think, and it goes back to what we've been talking about, and we've been talking about this for quite some time. It's the continuity of the coaching staff. You have the same coaches on your staff year in, year out. The communication is the same. The verbiage is the same as well. So now these guys, they can just go play now. That's the biggest thing for me. They can go play. They're not learning and waiting to understand what the coach is trying to relay to them. They know it now. They know exactly what the defensive calls, what the situations are going to be. And for those that don't, going back to your point, that's why they are communicating better, because now they know and they can tell the younger players, yo, here we go. Exactly. Right here. This is what I'm seeing. Make sure you react this way. Boom. That's what'd you say? Solve the mystery.
Yeah, and only a confident player who really believes in himself and has processed all those clues can yell out, "No, man, we got that's like a 70% chance they're going to run the inside zone here. Or we're going to get an outside zone on this play." So you can't do it until you become a true student of the game. But I think he's just saying that now they have more students of the game.
I agree.
Where they can have that situational awareness. Love that. Okay, next cut here is about turnovers. Actually, Sark was talking about both sides taking care of the football offensively, but also taking the ball away. Both those are going to be keys to success for Texas this season. Here's Sark talking about the turnovers in the spring.
We've done really well scrimmage-wise. I think on Friday, I think we had one interception in a 2-minute period. And we had been good. You know, sometimes in the practice settings, the ball can get a little loose, and that's when we have to keep training the guys about understanding, like situational awareness and what's going on. Again, I thought that the defense created some turnovers today through the air. So we definitely have to clean that up Thursday. And then, the goal is Saturday for the quarterbacks to be clean with the ball. That doesn't mean interceptions can't happen. There's tip balls. There's things that can happen that can create turnovers, and that's where we're really trying to impress upon the defense of taking advantage of our opportunities. In analyzing last season, I felt like we missed some opportunities for some critical turnovers and some big plays, whether it was interceptions off our hands, tip balls that we weren't able to come down with. Those are the ones that can change a complexion of a football game and ultimately change a complexion of a season to create those turnovers. So I think our defense is on it. I'm really impressed with our coaches that they're on it. And I think the players right now, I don't feel as many missed ops. When it's there, they're making their plays.
Yeah, taking care of the football is going to be big, and taking away the football, of course, on defense is going to be pivotal for them. And I was looking at a stat today, actually, about Rojo, because I was doing some draft research. You realize Rojo had one fumble his entire career? And it was last year.
Stud.
It was a K-State game.
Stud.
Right? It was a K-State game where they ran him down and punched it. That was honestly, that was
a great play.
Exactly.
It was a great play. He didn't fumble the ball.
It was a great play, and it was a mistake on the rest of the team for not yelling at him loud enough to let him know. Because all of us were yelling at it at our TVs, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. Yeah, you're right about that. And it was 4th and 1, I think, too. I think it was like a 4th and 1.
Run.
Yeah. And he was getting ready to probably go in for score potentially. But, yeah, that was the only time he fumbled. So just getting back to it, you had some running backs to care of it. And remember how rare it was to see Bijan fumble? Remember that Tech game? Yep. And watching he fumbled in the overtime.
You mean the one that the texter would always hit us up and talk about the reason why you lost because Bijan fumbled?
It's just so.
And it was like it doesn't happen. He's not a fumbler.
He's not a fumbler. And also, I still think the reason he fumbled in that game. Remember how cleanly the Tech defender?
Yeah, he was clear.
I think he was shocked that somebody tackled him that cleanly.
Yeah,
he hadn't been tackled like
ever.
One defender hasn't tackled Bijan.
Yeah.
And like it honestly, I would say it's one out of every maybe 40, 50 plays where one single defender in a one-on-one tackled Bijan successfully. It just didn't happen a lot. Yeah. And that was one of those times where the Tech defender just squared him up really well.
Right.
And I think Bijan was like, whoa, what the? He was kind of surprised, like, what the hell's going on here? He's never been hit that cleanly. And it really does. The ball came loose. He jarred it loose. It was not a huge hit, but it was just it was a solid tackle on one-on-one situation. Anyway, but Texas did not turn the ball over a lot in the run game last year. I do wonder this year with young running backs if that will come up again.
Right. It might,
because those are veteran backs who they knew everybody knows obviously the importance of taking care of the football, but they had experience doing it. And I wonder if some of these younger guys carrying the football, if that will be a concern, because we just been spoiled with two great ball handlers.
Well, I think Tashard Choice is definitely going to make sure that is a priority because of the fact that we have been so used to experienced guys running with the football, and you take it for granted. You take that part of it for granted because it was so rare that happened by those guys. So I'm definitely sure that this is something that they've probably been working on at practice. They probably had some issues at practice before with the younger players. And now I'm sure Choice is over there saying, hold up, man, you got to make sure you control this ball, because if not, he's not going to put you in, and our damn show ain't going to put you in, because that's on me. You know what I'm saying?
I believe, and this is what we thought was a bit of an overreaction. Remember Bijan carrying the ball around campus after he had the tech fumble, I believe it was.
Right.
So, I think this year, unfortunately, I hope I'm wrong. I think Texas may have to – not going to be a fumbling issue, but they won't have the security they had last year with a Bijan and a Rojo in the backfield.
Somebody said Ingram wasn't that long ago.
That's fair. That's a great point. Oh, you're right. The back-to-backs.
The back-to-back.
The TCU and the OU game.
Yeah. And
that
I think he dropped the pass against USC. Was it USC?
The LSU
game. That's right.
Right? That was LSU one.
That was. Yeah.
Wow. So close. Hey, that's an NFL running back, by the way.
Yeah, he is in the league.
I mean, think about it. You had 3 NFL running backs in that backfield now.
Oh, yeah. That locker room was nice.
Tom Herman should have been playing more 2 tailback sets, man.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the last cut in, then we'll finish the rest of these in Rod's rant of the day. So the spring games are always kind of weird because it's hard to celebrate a spring game. If you're celebrating the spring game, you're also celebrating that one aspect of your team underachieved or subpar. So if your defense is balling out and having a great spring game, well, that means your offense is underachieving. So it's kind of a glass half full, glass half empty, depending on your perspective of the spring game. Here is Sark talking about what he wants and how he judges a spring game.
What I look for is a clean game. I try to look for the mental errors. We have guys doing the wrong thing, guys lining up incorrectly. I look for physicality, who can play well at the point of attack, whether it's inside the box or on the perimeter. I look for playmaking ability. Those are the types of things I look for, because ultimately, if both sides play really well, it should be pretty evenly matched, and it should be a hard-fought, offense and or defense, and whichever side of the ball is going. The problem comes when the big plays occur, whether it's a big touchdown or a turnover or a sack. Generally, there's an error somewhere. And so hopefully we can reduce the number of errors that occur in the game. That's really what I'm looking for.
All right, there you go. And he's right about that. Clean game, clean game without a lot of penalties, alignment, assignment sound. You don't want any injuries, not going with there too. And you'd like guys to, at least when it comes to the schematic portion of the spring game, you'd like guys to be sound there in terms of knowing the scheme and knowing where they're supposed to be, their alignment assignments. So hopefully that is the case. All right, we got a few more cuts, got about 4 more cuts, and we'll pick those up on the other side, including Sark talking about the passing game improvement and JT Sanders. I love what he said about JT Sanders. We'll get into that too. Also, Specs text line, shout out to Chan and a couple of other texters who did mention, yes, the Mannequin soundtrack does have a fantastic jam. Nothing can stop us now.
Hold on.
Jefferson Starship? Is that what that is?
I believe so.
Is it? I do not know. So
I believe that is Jefferson Starship, which became Starship, but before that was Jefferson Airplane. Before they're the airplane, and
they've
had so many different.
Oh, they changed
their
members
name.
and all that names.
Yeah.
But I do know that is
gotta
a jam.
shorten it up every once in a while.
Dude, that song still bangs. I'm telling you, it still does. Damn good job by Jefferson Starship, whoever they are. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into Rod's Round today. More Texas football discussion, more audio from Steve Sarkisian from the media availability. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie and Rod's Rant of the Day. We're just going to continue the conversation we're having about Texas spring football because I got a couple of more pieces of audio that my man Patrick pulled that I want to share with you guys. So this next cut is about what Sark said is his biggest concern, or at least his biggest project in the offseason this spring, which is the improvement of the Texas passing game. And we've talked about this ad nauseum, but the Texas passing game regressed last year for a lot of different reasons. Young quarterback that, obviously regressed a little. We saw that. X-Man, that X factor with his hand, the broken hand, that kind of stuff. We talked about that as well. A young offensive line, so there's some pass protection issues the Longhorns deal with. So there are a lot of different things. By the way, Sark's play calling and lack of creativity and innovation also at times to blame for that. Here's Sark when talking about the passing game and the improvement that they've had so far this spring.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think that we've really tried to drill down as a staff on what we're doing and why we're doing it and make sure we're teaching it well. I think that obviously Quinn's development has helped that. I think the influx of some talented players so that we got a little more depth at the receiver position has been helpful there. I think fundamentally Coach Jackson's done a great job with our receivers and we're catching the ball really well right now. Then you don't feel the drops. And I think ultimately there's some confidence, as you start to make more plays, you build that confidence and you build that trust. And as you build the trust, right? Trust is an action. Then you start getting that faith and that belief that it's going to work. And I felt like at times last year there was a little bit of hesitation in just our ability to trust what was happening. And so I think that all those things have added up to we're throwing the ball pretty well right now, and guys are making plays when their numbers are called.
All right, and we know a lot of the passing game is built around the deep ball. So we'll see if in the spring game, that's one thing to look for, is the deep ball working? Have they improved the deep ball accuracy, which last year they struggled. They're one of the worst teams in the Big 12 at completing the deep ball. I think you're going to see a lot of quick game. I hope so, to get your young quarterbacks. Even Quinn's considered a young quarterback, even though he's a starter. Just got to get him in the groove hard, and then as these guys get in the groove, let the deep ball come. Don't chase the deep ball. I think that's what Sark does. He chases that deep ball, and it's like TLC. Don't go chasing waterfalls.
Exactly.
Please stick to the rivers, all right, and the lakes that you're used to.
Yeah, we don't need to be close to the waterfalls at all.
That's what happens to Sark. He starts chasing that deep ball. It's like chasing a waterfall. So quick game. Let it come to you more naturally.
Absolutely. And I think that's going to be Sark's game plan now because, again, you get a chance to self-reflect, right? You get a chance to go back and look at a lot of these games. Where were we missing? What was going on? And now I see, oh, man, I was really chasing those waterfalls, as my man Rob B just said. Now I got to go ahead and just stick my toe in there. Just stick the toe in there, man. Just put it there on the edge.
Hey.
Don't go chasing it. Just make sure the water's good.
Just test it a little bit first. Exactly. Sark wants you to go all this dive
he wants
right
you
in.
diving off of it like you over there with Eddie Reese.
Yeah. Off the high dive.
Exactly. I'm like, no, bro.
I'm getting down.
How deep is that? How deep is that?
I like that one. That's even better. Okay, let's get into, and this may help the passing game as well.
Yep.
He was asked about the next step for JT Sanders and how he has performed so far this year. I have said before, it's possible if you really want to evolve the passing game and have it, essentially be at its best, or at least at its most lethal. Honestly, building around JT Sanders might not be a bad idea instead of building the pass game around force-feeding the ball to X-Man. X-Man's going to get his targets. I'm not saying take that away from him.
He's going to get open. Don't worry about it.
But it's likely that JT Sanders will have more matchup advantages than X-Man will.
Yeah.
Because X-Man's easier to double. You can put your best corner on X-Man. You can put a safety on the top. You can roll coverage this way. People always say this about Travis Kelce. They always say what they say about Travis Kelce and the Chiefs. Why is he always open?
Yep.
Well, because it's really tough to be able to construct a defense that's malleable enough to defend all the different places you can put Travis Kelce. Put him in the backfield as an H-back or a fullback. Make him an inline tight end. Put him in the slot. Put him at the flex. Put him outside wide. You can move him around.
Basically, you saying move him around.
You know what? Hard just read my mind.
Exactly.
There you go. Well, here is Sark with being asked about. And by the way, you may have read Sark's mind too. Here's Sark when he's being asked about JT Sanders and his development this spring.
Well, I think there's a lot to it. naturally he's a very natural pass catcher. And I think JT's got a really high football IQ. So the more we can move him around and to give him different route opportunities, that part's been helpful. I think run game wise, there's still an evolution to his game where I think he can take it to another level from a blocking perspective. And then when he catches the ball, what he does with the ball in his hands. He's a big physical guy. He's very athletic. We're trying to get him to use his body more once the ball is in his hands. And I think we're seeing that. He's much more physical right now with the ball in his hands than he's ever been in the first couple of years here.
I haven't seen my man CB talking about this via Twitter. Shout out to CB. But I got to tell you, he's got a chance to be the greatest tight end in Texas football history, and he's actually not that far off from it right now. Because we haven't had a ton of prolific tight end play at Texas, and we know Texas basically tight end has been an endangered species on the 40 acres for like 15 years. He's the first true 5-tool tight end since Jermichael Finley. Yeah, you had a Jeff Swaim and a Tyrone Swoops in there, and Andrew Beck, guys who have played in the NFL at tight end and fullback, but the best tight end prospect on the 40 acres since Jermichael Finley is JT Sanders. And guys, the record for the most touchdown catches in a single season for a tight end, Pat Fitzgerald is 8. He did that in 1995. JT Sanders, this is a guy that had 5 touchdowns last season. That would be, I believe that's, if you will look at it, his 613 receiving yards last year, second all time in a single season for a tight end. His touchdown passes were third all time. For a tight end at Texas. His 54 receptions are the most by a tight end in a single season at Texas. He's got to get the most receiving yards, in a single season for a tight end. He would have to get 637. He had 613 last year. Most receiving yards in a single game by a tight end, Jermichael Finley, 149. I think JT Sanders can have one of those games this year. Most receiving yards in a career for a tight end, David Thomas, 1,367. Hell, one more season out of JT Sanders, he's going to catch that.
Yeah.
And most receiving touchdowns in a career by a tight end, 15 by David Thomas. If JT Sanders stays around 2 more seasons, he'll definitely catch that. Could do it this year if they feature him more. And most receiving touchdowns in a game by a tight end, 3 by DJ Grant. He probably won't break that one. That was pretty wild.
Yeah, that was.
But my point is, he's got a chance to be the best tight end in the history of Texas football from basically about one more really good year.
This goes back to the point of what we were saying, the underutilization of the options with Bijan Robinson and how you had the opportunity to move him around and do different things with him. Now you see you have that weapon in JT Sanders, who I kept saying at the very beginning, if you don't get him involved early in the game, he's not going to be there for you later. He's not used to being just a blocker.
No.
Right? So he's used to being open and getting the ball. And that goes back to Quinn seeing more of the field, having a better understanding of this offense, but also going back to Coach Sark where he was like, you know what? I need to make sure I get the ball to my best players in different areas of the field, regardless if they line up in the backfield, if they line up in the slot, if they line up at tight end, if they're out on the edge. If I can find a matchup where I can exploit that person, I'm going to do it, and I'm not going to hesitate anymore.
Yeah, no, and speaking of, they'll be trying to exploit more matchups with the Texas defensive line going up against an opposing offensive line. Sark was asked about pass rushers, and this is important, and I love this. This is probably one of my second favorite quote of the day from Sark. He was asked about what guys are standing out as premier pass rushers in the spring. Here's what Sark had to say.
Yeah, I think one guy that stands out to me at times I feel like he's unblockable is Byron Murphy. And that's internal pressure. But this guy is so active. He's so strong. He's so quick, and he's very smart. He has presented some real issues. I think Anthony Hill, anytime that he can present opportunities to rush the passer, he's an issue that way. Those two guys are the first two that stand out to me that I feel like whenever their number and their opportunity presents itself, they find their way back there.
You talking about the unblockable Byron Murphy?
Huh? You mean that one?
That one?
That dude?
Remember Texas last year, they had 277 pressures, second most in college football, but they only were able to to really turn those 277 pressures into 27 sacks. As a matter of fact, the top 10 teams in pressures in college football, and Texas was second. But among those top 10 teams, Texas had the second fewest sacks.
Yep.
Only NC State in the top 10 had fewer sacks than Texas with 24. Texas had 27. So they want to convert more of those pressures into sacks. And, man, interior pressure is a nice way to do it. I love that you said the young buck, Anthony Hill. Off the edge. Remember, DeMarvion Overshown, he was great off the edge for Texas last season.
But what happened? Didn't do it enough.
They
right?
didn't do it. Amen.
Right.
Amen.
That's what I'm
That,
saying. I think he's learning from what he saw on the film. I think they went back and did the research and self-reflected and saying, man, we missed a lot of stuff. We missed a lot of opportunities.
We left a W or 2 on the board.
Exactly.
Because we as a coach didn't give our guys a schematic advantage.
Exactly.
As I agree with that 100%. Yeah. Okay, you know what? We'll come back next segment. This is kind of an off the record, but it's more about Carson Palmer's comments about Joe Burrow being the best quarterback in the NFL. I want to talk about this a little bit, so we'll play the comments and we'll get into that conversation right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104 Down the Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Top of the charts Tuesdays when Patrick plays jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. And a little R. Kelly for you. I haven't heard R. Kelly in a long time.
I know.
Nobody plays R. Kelly anymore.
No.
Nobody plays him anymore. Not in public anyway.
I'll tell you what I did.
I just say nobody.
No, I'm saying.
You did?
The other day, I was getting ready. I don't even know where we were getting ready to go. I played the whole Trapped in the Closet, all 12
wait, through
of
with the Osley Brothers?
I'm
With
talking about
Ron
all
Osley?
of it, all the way through.
Like the
dog.
talking parts and everything?
Oh, man,
The theatrical
everything.
parts?
I played the entire thing. I was laughing so hard at it, man.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. At one time, a lot of people was jamming R. Kelly. Not anymore. But top of the charts Tuesday. That is a jam that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. Oh, man. Yeah, he did have some jams, though.
Yeah,
he
he
did have
did.
some jams. Okay, let's get to Carson Palmer because I guess if you're a Bengals fan, you thought this was the jam. Carson Palmer was on a podcast and he was being asked about Joe Burrow, talking about Joe Burrow, him a former Bengal, makes a lot of sense. And he made a comment comparing Joe Burrow to one Patrick Mahomes and basically saying Joe Burrow to him, hey, man, he's the top guy. He's better than what people are saying is the new GOAT in Patrick Mahomes. Here's Carson Palmer.
I think Joe's the best quarterback in the league, I know Patrick is phenomenal, but I just think Joe's more consistent. He's more consistent. He's more accountable to run the system and the play that's called and not feel like, well, he didn't win last time and get open for me, so I'm going to do it with my feet. And then before you know it, you're socked for a 4-yard loss because you tried to make 2 or 3 guys miss. Joe is just, they're talk about not having a weakness, mentally strong, physically tough, accurate, can throw it far enough, fast enough, gets the ball out quick, and then he can actually do a lot with his legs. He just rarely shows it. And it's not, I think he's as athletic outside the pocket with, and can do a lot of the same things Patrick Mahomes has done. He hasn't done it and showed it yet. He's played more within his system and style, but I think he's the best quarterback in the league.
All right. He says he's the best quarterback. I will say that if you go look at all the numbers, I mean, they're not, in terms of just the raw stats from last 2 years, Mahomes, 66.7% completion percentage, Burrow, 69.3%, 10,089 pass yards for Mahomes, 9,086 for Burrow. Burrow did play 2 fewer games in that time span. 26 interceptions, 69 touchdowns for Burrow, 78 touchdowns, 25 interceptions for Mahomes. So those are relatively close, but you start looking at accomplishments overall. I mean, you're talking about Patrick Mahomes, who's got 2 Super Bowl championships now and 3 appearances, and he's been starting, 4 years?
Yeah.
It's the greatest start for any quarterback we've ever seen. But to me, I always say, and I this is how I love to divide with QBs. I always say, try to find out what your quarterback does as well, if not better than everybody else. What's their X-Man ability that sets them apart? Joe Burrow, he's got the clutch gene. He does. He's as clutch as it gets, man. He plays some of his best football in the clutch. As a matter of fact, he has a 3-1 record versus Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. He does. The first loss was this last time.
Was his last time.
Yeah.
So he's got the clutch gene, and what I'll point out there, though, is the X-Man ability for Patrick Mahomes, though, no lead is safe, and no deficit seems insurmountable with Patrick Mahomes. If you go look at playoff games where quarterbacks have trailed by double digits, Patrick Mahomes is the only quarterback, arguably in NFL history, who has trailed by, if you look at that record of trailing by double digits in playoff games, he's the only one with a winning record. He's the only one with a winning record. He's 4-2 in playoff games where he's trailed by double digits. 2 of those are Super Bowl wins, by the way.
I was going to say, at the end of the day, we're talking about who's the better quarterback. You got to go with Patrick. Yes, he's been in the Super Bowl won it. You know what I'm saying?
But down by double digits in the 2 Super Bowls he won.
So I understand where you're coming from. Carson Palmer, I'm a big fan of him. Oh, by the way, he was a Cincinnati Bengals quarterback.
I get it.
So he's looking at his guy. But here's the deal. Right now, you have to go with the best quarterback, and the best quarterback is Patrick Mahomes. Is the fact that he is trending in the right direction? Absolutely. Is Joe Burrow have that clutch gene? For sure.
He's got it.
But Go ahead and tell me how many
Kim
bucks.
Kardashian,
There it
Nicki
is.
Minaj, Serena size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size.
Until you get them dubs in the Super Bowl, you're not going to be considered the best quarterback.
No, and we can also throw in the fact that he's playing with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
That helps.
Yeah.
And you can say, look, you do have two great wide receivers that you're playing with as well. That helps you out. You don't have an O-line. It's just hard this early in both their careers to judge and go, no, this guy's clearly head and shoulders. But no, I think Carson Palmer too. I know he watches Patrick Mahomes, but the take that Patrick Mahomes tries to run too much, I didn't think that was a solid.
That's not a solid
That's not Patrick Mahomes.
He only does it when it's necessary.
Yeah,
he
doesn't
do it enough.
Yeah. So that whole you're going to have to try and make four guys miss because you're trying to do it with your feet. You're like, that's not really Patrick Mahomes, which tells me you probably watch a lot more Joe Burrow than Patrick Mahomes.
Exactly.
Which is why you like Joe Burrow more. I get it. Joe Burrow's really, really good.
He's awesome.
Nobody's denying that fact.
But
that he's
you know
really
you're
good.
But I'll tell you what, you're probably going to end up watching more Patrick Mahomes, or at least some Patrick Mahomes in every season, because he's usually going to be playing later in the year than Joe Burrow.
I hope I see them both.
Or they're going to be playing against each
I
other.
hope they end up like a rivalry because they both are great. But like I said, Patrick Mahomes, we've never seen a quarterback that treats double-digit leads in the NFL this way. He basically treats a double-digit lead like Steph Curry does in the NBA. Yeah. It doesn't matter to him because he can basically eviscerate it in a matter of seconds, like he did, thanks Texter, to my Houston Texans. Said, beat your Texans pretty bad, 24-point comeback. Yeah, I'll give you a stat about that really quickly. So how about this? And we'll end it on this note to show you how much of a freakish X-Man basically Mahomes is, especially when it comes to overcoming double-digit deficits. So if you take the biggest halftime deficits or leads, teams who have had the biggest comeback wins from a deficit of 23-plus points, all right, you take basically 33 such games going all the way back to 1946, where an NFL team had a comeback win after being down at least 23 points. The Kansas City Chiefs coming back against the Texans, it's the only game out of those 33 in NFL history where the team who came back to win after being down 23-plus points were leading at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
Halftime.
Yeah.
Only time it's ever happened.
Wow.
So his ability to go thermonuclear on teams and to basically get this kind of a Category 5 force of nature to go supernova, it is Steph Curry-like, except on a football field.
Yep.
And I don't think anybody has ever seen anything like that. So Joe Burrow's great, but Joe Burrow can't do that. Nobody has ever been able to do that.
Thank you.
All right, we'll come back.
Don't do that.
No, exactly. We'll come back. We got play-in game previews on the other side for the games tonight and a little Texas baseball preview as well. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. We had a TLC reference earlier on the show to Waterfalls, and now got some TLC. Love
got
it.
Going.
Top of the charts Tuesday. That's what my man Patrick takes jams and that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history and plays those for us. My favorite musically themed day of the week. Yeah, I like the script. It's a jam. Why were dudes jamming this song so much?
Because we thought we was the one that was the scrub.
Sometimes they were talking about us.
Yeah, exactly.
So in your best friend's ride, it's like, hold up, I was in my best friend's ride at that time.
But yeah, if your girls listen to this and Tyrone and all that, you gotta be like, oh
you
no,
were the scrub.
Exactly. Like, I think one time she was talking about me as the scrub. I wasn't always the scrub. Some of these descriptions on this song are pretty, they're pretty specific.
That's exactly what I was talking about.
Trying to holler at me, I was like, I was that guy. I was in my best friend's ride. Like, oh man, go holler at that chick over there. She's sexy.
Is there a thing about Walkmans in here?
Oh man, hey dude, I hollered at women at the bus stop. I had no shame. I don't give a damn if I was broke.
Well, you
or
was trying to
whatever.
get a ride.
Hey, man.
You was trying to get a ride.
I'm at the bus. I've got somewhere to go at least. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
Come on now. All right, anyway, let's get to some NBA play-in previews here, gentlemen. And then we got Texas baseball coming up for you at 6:15. But you got the play-in games tonight. So the postseason officially starting for the NBA. The first matchup will be the Atlanta Hawks versus the Miami Heat. The winner will advance to face Boston in the first round. It's the 7th seed. The loser will play the winner of the Bulls-Raptors game to determine who's going to be the 8th seed. Remember, the Heat won this season series 3-1. I think it's two factors, guys, that I think are going to be huge here. Atlanta's defense, one of the worst in the league. They're in defensive rating. They're 22nd. Points in the paint allowed, 29th. Fast break points allowed, they're 26th. And fourth quarter points allowed, they're at 27th. Miami's not a great offense, but I think Miami's offense, because they got some clutch scoring, as you mentioned, Harge, with Jimmy Butler, Adebayo, and Tyler Hero, they're going to be better equipped to win one-on-ones and also be able to score when they need it in clutch time. I'll take the defense of Miami, and I'll take Jimmy Butler in clutch time. He's the third most clutch points in the NBA this season. I'll take that in this matchup.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about Jimmy Butler and what he's able to bring. I know that we were at the very beginning of the show, we were talking about Murray and what he's going to bring as a defender, but this team has got more experience. They're going to be ready to play. I don't think they have an answer for Atlanta, that is. I don't think they have an answer for Bam Adebayo. You also got to look at the fact that Tyler Hero can get you from the outside, and if he really gets it going, he's going to be tough to handle tonight. So I'm with you. I'm all in on Miami in this game tonight.
Patrick, who do you like?
Yeah, I like Miami. Just the experience in this game. And I'm not sure Atlanta. I don't know if Quinn Snyder's got them turned around the way they need to be yet. I think that
it's still a work in progress.
Yeah.
That was a good hire, though. I think
it is.
Right?
It'll be interesting to see how it goes next year. I mean, none of it matters until they get Trae Young to be on board with wanting to play basketball in the NBA.
Play defense.
Play basketball in the NBA. If he wants to play NBA basketball, great. If he wants to play street ball, have fun, go play street ball.
Love that stat, though. DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, first teammates since Scottie Pippen. Michael Jordan and Pippen. I was like, put OU before Texas. My bad.
You were over there thinking about Lars Pippen.
Exactly. Oh, you mean Lars or Pippen?
Yeah.
Jordan,
that's right.
DeJounte Murray and Trae Young, first teammates since Jordan and Pippen to average 20-plus points and 6+ assists. So they've been a good pairing, but this will be the true test in the play-in, not the playoffs. Yeah. Also playing tonight, you got the Lakers hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves. Winner advances to face Memphis in the first round. It's the 7th seed. Loser will play the winner of the Pelicans Thunder game. And that will determine the 8th seed. Guys, I just think they're just they're going to be overwhelmed here just because they got a lot of issues now. The Rudy Gobert suspension is one thing. Jaden McDaniels, remember his frustration caused him to punch a wall, so he's going to be out with a fractured right hand of sorts. And also, they may be playing the hottest team right now in the NBA. Since the All-Star break, the Lakers have the second best record in the NBA since the All-Star break.
No doubt. And I'm looking at this game as Rudy Gobert not being there and Anthony Davis being able to get into the lane and do pretty much everything that he wants to do. Without Gobert, I don't think they're going to have an opportunity to stop. But if you're not a Minnesota Timberwolves fan and you hadn't really paid attention to it, pay attention to Anthony Edwards. This dude is an absolute freak on the basketball court. He originally was going to go to Georgia to play football. That's how
What
good.
was he going to play? What position was he going to play?
I think he was a wide receiver.
Ooh, Woo,
yeah. And he's a strong kid.
He might have made him a tight end.
Oh, for sure. You know that. You know that.
Tight end room.
Yeah, he's a monster. He is an absolute freak, and I like watching him play. So that's who I'll be paying attention to. But, yeah, I'm with the Lakers tonight.
Yeah, and this is going to be the game. You're going to watch Karl Anthony Towns versus Anthony Davis, and Anthony Davis should be able to eat all day in that matchup. If Karl Anthony Towns hits threes, then he can do that. If he doesn't hit his threes, then this is not even a contest. The line is 8.5 for this game right now. That's pretty big for a playing game.
That is, and Cat has, coming off that injury, he has only scored 30-plus points once since his return from that injury. He's been able to score, but he just hasn't been prolific. And you're right, he'll be going up against one of the best defensive big men in the league, in Anthony Davis. And Anthony Davis has been focused lately. Yeah. I mean, when he's motivated and focused, you see why the Lakers made the move, because you can build around that guy. He's motivated and focused, man. He is a force of nature.
Street Clothes Davis.
Street Clothes Davis, your guy. That's your guy. That's your guy.
Oh, man. Well, hopefully he stays healthy, because the Lakers right now, the best thing they got going is their health. You brought up Mo Bamba's getting healthy with them now, and that trade they made was at the perfect time. And you got to give that front office for the Lakers a ton of credit. Most of us wrote the Lakers off at the start of the season early on.
They don't usually make good trades.
We remember this conversation.
Trades like trading away all of your players for Russell Westbrook, and then going to trade for Rui Hachimura, who is knocked out of a job by a guy you traded there for Russell Westbrook.
They basically admitted they made mistakes.
Yeah, they did.
The Lakers
and they
did.
fixed it.
Yeah, exactly. Good point there. All right, what's on tap for you, Harsh, tonight?
I'm going to watch the basketball games, and, of course, I'm going to be watching this Texas baseball game as they take on Texas State right here on 104.9. My man Craigway and Ty Harrington will be on the call. Eric Kennedy is back, and Ace Whitehead is on the mound tonight.
It's good stuff. I'll be watching Playing Basketball, and I'm sure, Patrick, what's on tap for you?
Playing basketball.
He's been waiting on this moment.
That's right.
All right, Texas baseball coming up next. Don't go anywhere. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on Ball Don't Lie. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Texas baseball, Craig Way, the voice of Longhorns, and Ty Harrington.